OTB's The Hurling Pod.
With Board Gosh Energy.
Hurling, it's anyone's game.
Hurling, it's anyone's game. Off the ball, teaming up with the Senior Hurling Championship sponsors Board Gosh Energy. We're uncovering stories highlighting the positive impact that hurling is having on people's lives. For full competition details, check out boardgoshenergy.ie/home/BGE-GA for more details. Interesting weekend just gone by, despite the fact we only had one game. There's still plenty for us to talk about from the Munster Senior Championship. For a third time, a Brian Lohan managed Clare team has now knocked Davy Fitzgerald out of the championship as the Banner registered a fifth straight championship victory against Waterford. The Deise's poor record in the Munster round robin series continuing. That was their sixth provincial defeat in a row. Carlow, meanwhile, joined Offaly in the Joe McDonagh Cup final, while Down avoided the trapdoor on the final day, sending Kildare down to the Christie Ring for next year. Far more importantly, though, the time has arrived for the much anticipated Hurling Pod draft, which will be conducted by the now Leinster Minor Hurling Championship winning coach James Skehill. And also, after some confusion in the week just gone by about whether he'd been handed an 8-year prison stretch, instead he's been handed an army promotion. We've got Paul Murphy. How are we getting on, lads?
How's it going, lads?
I am tremendous.
I only noticed halfway through that intro there that he's wearing a Patriots t-shirt.
I was going around the house for 15 minutes before this, asking Grace, where is that t-shirt? I have to wear that t-shirt because it's got the biggest logo of them all. I have to wear it.
I actually have an Aaron Rodgers Green Bay top somewhere. I don't know. And I'm even going looking for it now because I'll be all evening trying to find it.
So, come here, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay, right? Let's test your knowledge. Do you know which team he's gone to now?
I haven't a fucking clue.
Really?
Who's gone to know? Yeah, I don't know who he's gone to know.
He has gone to the Jets, where veteran quarterbacks go to earn a lot of money.
Yeah. And the thing is, Murph, that just tells me, right, that you actually have no interest in NFL whatsoever. So
I haven't watched NFL closely, I'd say, in about 3 years. I got into it for a good while. Now, I can't say I'm to the level. Owen Murphy and Jackie Turrell will talk NFL to you all day long, and fanatical about it. So you can give them a shout now if you want to exhaust the conversation with them.
The times I've been on Twitter there and I see Murphy going on about the Ravens and I don't like the Ravens.
So, oh, yeah, he's a Ravens fan and Jackie's Dallas Cowboys.
Jackie's Dallas, yeah, however he landed there.
And I kind of went, we picked teams years ago. I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers just because I watched America's game and I liked the 2000, I think it was 2006 when they won, was it 2006 when the Super Bowl? Troy Polamalu and all that. Then I was like, why did I pick a team that are black and amber? My club is black and amber, Kilkenny. I was like, surely you could just go for the 49ers. Actually, Tommy Welch is 49ers, so there's another one. He's, I think he enjoys the romance of it though. So
this seems like the Kilkenny dressing room loved NFL by the sounds of it.
There was lads kind of got into it. We went to America a few times as well. So we got a few games in. Like we went to myself, Owen Murphy, Jackie, and Matt Root went to New York Giants game back in 2012. We were at the San Diego, or we were in San Diego for the Chargers last game in San Diego as well. So we've got to a few games. So lads kind of had an interest then, you know.
It's not bad.
Skell, why did you support the Patriots then, Brady?
No, on my.
Why did you pick the all-winning Patriots as your?
If you weren't so ignorant, let me answer. Right, all my family are from Boston.
You told me you said you were French 2 weeks ago.
My dad's side are all in Boston. My dad's side are all in Boston since the early 60s. There's like 7 out there. So I've been out there since I was maybe 7 or 8.
Okay.
So I was in before Gillette Stadium in Foxborough was there. I was in the Patriots place, and then Brady came along. So that was just happened to coincide with my sport, you know. What we deserve anyway. Like 20 years of pure unreal, yeah. And then so my uncles didn't have season tickets, so I go over there. I try to get a game every year. So I've probably been to about maybe 15 games. I don't know how many games, loads of games. All home games actually. I've never been to an away game.
No one tends to go to away games though. It's like you are almost all home support really.
Yeah,
out of novelty, you'd be going to an away game, I presume.
Yeah, but also you want to pick one. So I don't want to just go to a dome for the crack. Like I want to go to a home game where it's like intense. So Johnny Coleman is a big Chiefs fan, because his wife's family are all Kansas as well. So I was saying Chiefs, Arrowhead would be a right place to go if you're a Patriots fan because they fucking hate them. So that's where I'd land in big Patriots jersey. I'd love to be in the middle of them. It's this Irish guy, yeah. Actually, you'd see me on Twitter in one of these videos where Patriots fan and Chiefs fans are fighting. You guys suck. Yeah.
If you don't go to Arrowhead, I strongly recommend, Skehill, go to the Buffalo Bills, who again also don't particularly like the Patriots.
No, they don't. Yeah, just because they're losing.
You could have a lot of fun with their crazy fans before the game starts.
Yeah,
I will literally give you a camera.
Tables. Yeah, jumping on tables, but see, they're losers. Just mean they're absolute losers, like Buffalo Bills. You know what I mean? So whereas at least the Chiefs are winning, and Mahomes is class. So yeah, and they have got the second best tight end of all time in Kelsey. Patriots had the first in Gronk. So
I never thought the Hurling Pod would kind of very, very slowly and gradually turn into an NFL pod, but that's
the same. Yeah, the same as to an NFL pod. More pistachio.
I only asked you about your T-shirt. You started talking about arguing with lads in Kansas and stuff. So,
was there a game on the weekend? There was.
There was, yeah. No, will we get into that? So Waterford out of the championship, Paul. Very disappointing again. I think reasonably limp performance, not helped by after Cahill lines went off. Particularly, the game went in Clare's favour, but I think they were on top even before that happened. In the end, they come through Clare by 222 to 16 points. And I don't know, you take up where it went wrong for Waterford. I watched the Waterford team hit 12 wides, and so often when they hit those 12 wides in the first half, there was no player further forward. I think the way they were set up was pretty key to why they lost.
Absolutely was, yeah. Like I wrote down, there was so much to try and pick apart in, I suppose, in a negative way, but you know, I wrote down 3 things about just looking at Waterford, what they looked like. And they looked frustrated. They looked like they had no belief and no confidence. Like just there was flare-ups of different things in the matches where you just saw lads maybe dropping their heads, lads getting narky, lads giving out to the referee, a few different things like that. But I thought one of the big telling points was just after Cahill Lyons got sent off. If you watch the next minute after that, it was just symptomatic of Waterford's performance. Tony Kelly scores a point, and straight away from the puck out, Waterford run outside their own 45 and just pile up the pitch, but they still end up almost getting the ball turned over in their own 21 with a sharp puck out. Puck out goes to Jack Fagan. Jack Fagan pops it back to Billy Nolan. He passes out to the wing, and then a shot from 100 yards that goes wide. And like that must have absolutely killed their confidence. And like there's so many parts of it. For all the times that Waterford were doing whatever this tactic is of running out of their 45 and piling it up, there's absolutely no players down the far end. So like they seem to just run into the midfield area. I can't make sense of it. I know their forward line go very deep and try to come running out, but it was still the Clare defenders that were coming running out and winning the ball. So I'd find it hard as a player how you'd have confidence playing like that when you're just trying to get a foothold in the game, but you're probably very confused as to what are we doing? What's our tactic? I know for lots of teams that I would have played with, you might have this very basic rule that if the opposition team scores a goal or scores maybe 2 or 3 points in a row, everybody go back into your positions. We're going long with the puck out just to steady the ship again. Going long, lads get up there and compete. And it's almost like a reset for the brain that, like, right, lads, hang on here for a second. We're after giving up a few scores here. But like I said, when Cahill Lyons was sent off, Waterford needed to steady the ship, and they just didn't. And that was the point, because realistically, there was only a puck of the ball in between them, up till then. And you could just see the confidence then draining out of Waterford, where Clare knew what they were at. Clare weren't perfect either by any means. They had a good few handling errors. But I just believe that at least Clare knew what they were trying to do. They knew what they were at. They had a bit of confidence. They were going forward, striking the ball. But like you said, Will, some of the shots that were going wide, you were looking inside saying, well, there wasn't even really much of an option inside. So it's just, if I was a Waterford supporter, I'd be so disappointed that there's not even much you can cling to here to say, there wasn't much in it or we had a chance. It's very far from where it should be.
Do you know the one that really stood out for me, Paul, was at one point, Stephen Bennett takes the ball in what's effectively the left wing forward position. He's out near the sideline. He looks to try and find anyone that he can pass the ball to, but there's no one there to recycle possession. And in the end, he actually played for a sideline because there was nobody in front of him. And there was another occasion over on the far side, I think it was also towards the end of the first half, where Deise Hutchinson played a very clever pass down the line. But again, this party is thinking, why is Deise Hutchinson 50 metres from goal trying to play a ball over the top for someone else to run into?
Yeah, exactly. And you saw it in the second half where they put him back in corner forward, Deise Hutchinson. Ball goes into the hand. In the first 20 seconds of the ball being thrown in, pops it over the bar. But I think the next ball he picked up was on his own 65, as in near his own centre-back position. I think he was maybe fouled in that position then. But straight away I was just going, we're just after seeing what happens when you put Deise Hutchinson up corner forward. We're looking for points. We're looking for goals here, looking for something. And yet, whatever the system is, you find him being dragged back out the pitch. And And yeah, it's just, there's so many things that are just baffling there. And I think for the likes of Deise Hutchinson, these players, they're playing in roles that maybe it's just not exploiting their real talents and their real potential. And that is killing their own confidence then. But it's just, look, it's tough times. It's tough times for Waterford. You know, when you look at the rest of the table, you know, you have teams there who've either, you know, 1-2 or every team has 1-1 and drawn, and you know, you're there and thereabouts. But when you see them with, like, you know, I was looking at the scores even as well, you know, conceding 3 goals and like no goals for them in the championship so far with 3 games played. Whereas all the other teams you're actually looking at are going, okay, well, they're shooting the lights out, but they're conceding, and you can pick stuff apart. But Waterford, 53 points on the board after 3 games, like, that's just, you know, it doesn't make for good reading.
Yeah, and again, the return for the full game here is 7 points in play, which is not going to win you any games. Skehill, explain to me this puck-out strategy then. What is this overloading around the 45 all about?
It goes against everything that I understand, that I know. Like, so after about 40 minutes yesterday, I just stopped actually assessing the game. I stopped taking numbers. I stopped actually analysing, you know, possessions and scores, and I started looking at just Waterford. And I said, right, show me something, Waterford. Show me what you're trying to do, so I can understand maybe a bit of logic behind it. So generally, teams, when you see any team at all, they have principles to play. You know what I mean? So a principle to play is a fundamental element that a team are trying to implement in their play. So that could be a specific defending structure. That could be a specific puck out, or like Murphy said, if they concede a number of scores, whatever. And then when you've got your principles, you develop tactics around it, you know, to kind of complement those principles, right? I couldn't actually pinpoint what the principle play for Waterford was. I couldn't, because normally what you try to do is you try to minimize space at the back and you create it up front. So like if you have deep line wing forwards, deep line midfielders, that'll minimize space at the back, but it'll also create space for runners to go up front. Then I was looking at the puck out and saying, right, maybe they're trying to hit it long, hope for a break, and they have overwhelming numbers going through. So then a puck out happens, they win a break, and next thing, I can't remember who got it, the centre half back yesterday, I forget his name, excuse me. He gets it on the wing, but he then hits a straight line pass to a straight line runner on the wing. I think it's to Ozzy Gleeson. Ozzy Gleeson gets the ball, turns, he looks in, there's no inside forward at all. So no inside forward. So he ultimately has to carry it down the line, and that's the shot he hit in the 33rd minute inside the 14. So that passage of play proves 2 things. Number 1, the system is broken. Number 2, the personnel don't know how to utilise it or how to use it. And number 3, it saps energy out of them. So that's what I was looking at through the whole game. So then you're on about Murphy's on about shots there, like play. So I heard the manager say that they had 23 shots in the first half. 3 of those resulted in points from play. Just 3. So that's a horrific possession. So the system they have in place, again, just some more numbers overall. They've only got 11 players that have scored in the championship so far. Of those, 4 of them are non-starters. Only 4 players have scored in every game. That's including the free taker. So all those numbers, they all accumulate to say, you know, that's how analysis can actually tell you a pattern. So when you say 23 shots in the game in the first half, that's how sometimes analysis can actually distort figures. You know what I mean? Yeah. Them shots were coming from 100 yards, out the wing, over the shoulder. They were all levels of ridiculousness. So the Waterford game plan had no logic to it whatsoever. How can you adopt a system specifically against a team with as much pace? Probably the most pace in the country is what Clare have. When you consider they have the midfield they have Forde they have. So then you adopt a strategy that you poke the ball down when you've only got 2 backs inside your own half, and then you leave Tony Kelly and Ian Galvin and these lads inside 2-on-2. That is absolutely criminal. No logic. And there's no world where I think of a player like, let's say, an experienced player like Ty DeBurke or Isaac Gleeson that would have looked at this system, looked at these tactics, heard them in training and go, yeah, I believe that. I can't. The first things first, when a manager introduces a game plan or a principle of play, he has to convince the players this is the way forward. This is how we're going to win. Not alone compete, but win. And so for Waterford coming from such an abysmal year last year, after a good start, mind you, we win the league, coming forward, I thought, as we said probably 2 months ago, we thought that they'd return to basics, press the reset button and go again because they have quality. Whereas I think the management assumed Waterford at a certain level and trying to overload them with information, tactics, fucking circus, if you ask me. Because if you look at the way they played, lads, it was an absolute circus. It was clowns running the show, right? And like you said, Murph, after Callum Lyons got sent off, which was a justified sending off, and the reason I think it was is because I think the tactics and the way Waterford played actually led into Callum Lyons doing that desperation tackle. He no cover. That's the kind of ball, and I guarantee you know better than I do, Murph. You're going for that ball. You know, I'm not going to get there, but I'm going to dive and try. And he does dive. Fouls him. It's a yellow card. He's off. It's a desperation tackle because he's no cover behind him. So all those things point towards. I know people will blame players, and a bit of blame has to go on to them also, because they dropped tools, lads. The body language gave up. You can't just have 11 scorers throughout the whole championship. They're averaging, would you believe, 9 points from play in the championship this year so far. That's at a level that we've never seen an intercounty team operated before. I'd love to assess, and this is with the great respect now, Westmeath or Antrim, what's their scoring from play so far? And I bet you it's higher than the Waterford's. So I'll probably give you a long-winded answer there now, Will. Right? But overall, I'm painting a picture as to where Waterford are at. And for me, where do I think what should they do? Waterford should get someone in-house in their own county, start afresh, and go from there. They should draw a line in the sand and say, right, this circus is over. Right, we need to go back to basics, bring back our own people, and start again. That's where Waterford should go, if you ask me.
Right, well, Paul, if you look at the reset, right, or the idea that Waterford are going to change their tactics, I think everyone up and down the country was wondering what's going on with Hutchinson being out as deep as he is. But you look at, say, someone like Jack Fagan, who seemed to be moved for very specialist reasons last year. The idea was to probably get someone to break ball within the half back line. But yet, this is a guy who 2 or 3 years ago was a fantastic player to have in your forward line to win you some possession. He was almost a guy you could puck ball up to him, would make it stick, and then he would get it off to someone else. Surely, if you look at the way they've been playing towards the end of the league and now into the championship, why would there not be a temptation to put Fagan back up the pitch again?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it's kind of arranging the deck chairs in the Titanic. You could do something for you, but it's like, is it the biggest issue that they have? And it's not to be, it's not to be blasé about it. But when I looked at one stage during the game, again, I watched it on telly, but the commentator said that after one of the puckouts, that Billy Nolan was marking Peter Duggan. I couldn't see it down the other end of the pitch, but Waterford had committed so many players forward that he was now marking who, Duggan was kind of around wing forward. He must have been full forward at this stage. I've never heard of that before, where a goalkeeper was out marking an outfield player. In the off chance that the ball turned around, someone lamped a ball in on top. What was meant to happen there in that situation? And I think he can nitpick at small things and say, if Jack Fagan, Jack Fagan's not a miracle worker. He can't. He's an incredible player. And when he played against us in 2020 up in Croke Park, he was outstanding and really was one of the players that brought it to us that night and turned it around after half time for Waterford. He is an outstanding player, but I don't think he can thrive in what's being presented. You could put him up half forward, but what's he going to do? Because lots of things that I saw with Waterford at the weekend was players taking the ball, they weren't ready. The pass that was coming for them, they weren't expecting it. There was no sort of understanding between the players as to what was happening on the pitch in terms of, Jack Fagan gets a ball at wing back, he's running up the line and runners start coming open for him off the shoulder, whatever. We see it, every other team is doing it. We saw players taking the ball standing. We saw passes being sloppy, popped up in the air. Players getting the ball, kind of turning back, not really having much thought as to where are we going here. There was no pattern to what they were doing. So you can put the best player in the country into that process, but if they can't understand what the next ball is going to be or what the pattern, what the attacking style is, it's very hard to thrive. So I absolutely understand the point. It would have warranted a change for Waterford to maybe push Jack Fagan up. I think a lot of people would have wanted to see that. But look, Waterford already have great players up there. They have their Austin Gleesons. Patrick Hearn's on the bench. He was a player, back a good few years ago that was being tipped as, could be a hurler of the year. Jamie Barnes, Deise Hutchinson. They have excellent players all over the pitch and players they've pushed into these positions, and it hasn't worked for them either. So for me, I agree with Skehill. It's the system that they have. It seems to me now, and again, this is speaking completely from the outside, just seeing from things that were happening before the game in terms of these, I suppose, maybe pre-match rituals or pre-match, whatever you want to call it, things. Absolutely, I understand teams do certain things, and if you're winning, nobody questions them. But when, I was looking at their system and they were doing some sort of a bowing thing. I don't know what it was. I think it could be like this 3 deep breaths someone was saying. It could be one thing or whatever else. But it seems to be like they've just implemented loads of small different things all over, and it's all scattered out, and none of it is really cohesive, or none of it really works all hand in hand. And it's just a bit muddled for the players. And I think the players are going, we don't really know what we're about. We're being told loads of good stuff and that we're brilliant lads and, we're going to work hard. But work hard for what? What are we working hard for? That's just the impression that it gives. And not to say I've been there as a player, but you've been there at times where, you're reaching for that confidence and maybe you don't have the confidence at the time. And all you want there is a solid plan that you can get your head around and say, right, well, now if I work hard, it's my fault. You know, if things don't work out, it's my fault. But at the moment, I don't think the Waterford players even know what the problem is, because like they started the game really strong. And I know we're pulling apart loads of things. They actually started with a load of aggression. Like Prunty went up and won a free, and he got up and he was fist pumping. Like Caleb Lyons, in fairness to him, he was picked up a good few ball in the first few minutes, and they were going, taking it to him. But then once the first little bit of, you know, lack of confidence kicked in, it completely. And that to me says that it's kind of built on sand. The foundation of what they're trying to do, they don't really believe it themselves. That at the first bit of, I suppose, pushback that Clare were going to kick on, they collapsed. And that's because I don't know if they really believe what they're doing. And again, I don't know, is it back on the Waterford players? A little bit is, like Skehill said, yeah, they have to take it. But also, what are they being given is really the big question I'd have.
Skehill, if they had won, we probably wouldn't be talking about this warm-up technique at all. But I asked both of you, and neither of you have ever seen this happen before, whatever this was, this dipping up and down in unison 2 or 3 times before the game started. What was it about?
I had no idea. I was trying to look at it and say, is there anything I can actually draw a close comparison? And the only thing I could think of from a personal level was we used to play rugby games, and you go into a huddle before the game and you kind of squeeze each other for a bit of aggression. You know what I mean? And that was kind of tailored to suit the game that was about to beginning. We were about to start. Whereas here, it has to be a breathing technique, as Murph said. It has to be something that where they're pressing a reset, they're kind of getting ready for battle, and it must be something where they're bending down and saying, right, this is a collective effort, let's go together. Other than that, I haven't a Scooby-Doo of what they were doing. Do you know what I mean? I don't know whether they're trying to release wind, or they're trying to get sick. I just no idea what they're trying to do. And them kind of things for me, like if that was Limerick doing it right, I'd see every under 14 team in the country at it. But when you're a team that's not winning and struggling, you're looking for that one little thing just to get you going, right? Don't introduce these things. You know, that's the first time we've seen it. Am I right in saying that this year?
Yeah, well, I've never seen it.
First time I've ever seen it.
Just don't bother with it. Don't draw what I would class as unnecessary, eyes onto you, because everyone's looking at it. And I can say it's all over Twitter. It'll be all over. Here we are talking on podcasts. There's more podcasts going to go on tomorrow, and I guarantee they'll discuss the same topic. Leave that shit aside. That's part of the circus I was telling you. Like for me, Murph would say, when players love information. They love being told information, little nuggets on how to improve, right? But when things aren't going well, I didn't love simplicity. Just let's go 15 on 15, lads. Let's rock on. If we want to bring out a sweeper or bring out a turbine fielder, grand. For puckouts, let's get a bit of movement on half forward line and let's see where it takes us. And that's the most basic level of game plan you can introduce in each county. Whereas here, I think the players didn't have any clue what they were supposed to be doing. And when you introduce confusion, right, you don't have time to adapt. You have zero time, because the opposition team, right, has you analysed and has their own plan, which they've worked well. So Clare had obviously Waterford analysed. They knew they were going pushing their backs up puckouts, and I thought Clare adapted really well. They adapted really well to the madness that was around them. And I know their only score was 111 in the first half, but it was a good 111, if that makes sense. And they had loads of opportunities. They had wides as well, and they were getting into shooting zones far better than Waterford. And Clare were defending really well. Barron had a goal chance, fair enough, but Clare defended kind of if you picture a semicircle around the big poles, they defended that area pretty good, whereas Waterford were just like 6 and 7s, lads. So, look, I don't know what it's about, Will. I think they should just forget about that. If I'm in that dressing room tomorrow evening, truthfully speaking, I'm saying, right, lads, let's row the boat ourselves here now for this last game. Let's just establish a bit of, I suppose, I hate to use the cliche, pride, but let's just give something for our supporters to think about for the year going forward. A small bit of positivity. Just give them the smallest bit of positivity and try and sneak out a win. So just through fundamentals, just through basics, and through nothing else. Sheer hard work, and if you do that, people get behind you.
Yeah, we will get on to Clare in a moment, but I just was reading Dennis Walsh's piece, which was in the Independent today, about where Waterford are at and potentially further down the line where they could be going. And in there he said the biggest concern for Waterford is not their ongoing mud wrestle with the round robin system in Munster, where they have now just one win in 15 matches, but it's where they're going to be in 5 years' time. And he points out that Waterford's results at underage level over a sustained period of time are alarming. We talked about before, they've not had a win at any level, underage or senior, this year in Championship in hurling or football so far. But since 2015 in the hurling, they've played 26 minor Championship matches and won just 5. They won the All-Ireland Under-21 in 2016, but since then they've won victory in 12 games, and that victory was against Kerry. He also points out that there's quite a few players here who, even though maybe they're not that old age-wise, they've got a lot of hurling behind them at senior level. Jamie Barnes, 11th season, 10th season for Austin Gleeson, Tyg de Burka and Stephen Bennett. Deise Hutchinson, Conor Prunty, Conor Gleeson, Colin Dunford, all in their late 20s. And there's been very few players coming through since they played in the 2020 All-Ireland final. This is almost the same core group as played in the All-Ireland final that year. I don't know how alarming that is, Murph, but it certainly would indicate that there's not been a conveyor belt of talent coming through from those minor and under-21 teams who've actually pretty much become the senior team over the last few years.
Yeah, it's something I hadn't thought about, because it's amazing for you to say there that it's Austin Gleeson's 10th year. It kind of feels like it might be his 5th or 6th. You just kind of have it in your head that he's a young player, and he is. He's young, but in terms of inter-county age, it's pushing on a small bit. But yeah, you look at other counties, and you can kind of say there's ebbs and flows in different years, and players are coming in. And look, realistically, Waterford only have to take 2 or 3 players from each batch. That's always the rule of thumb. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have teams that are winning all around them, but nevertheless, it makes for stark reading when they're not even winning, consistently games, or breaking even, that they're competing a bit, or maybe not getting a Munster, but they're winning games. But a few of the stats you read there are just, alarming stuff. Like, was it out of 12 games, they have 1 win in under 21 since 2016? Was that it?
That was against Kerry, yeah.
Like, that's remarkable. That's tough going. And as a county, I suppose, as a county there, you'd be looking like brilliant. The likes of Ballygunner, of course, competing for Club All-Irelands, but that's one very small corner of the hurling landscape in Waterford. And like traditionally, like we're neighbours with Waterford down here, and we would have always heard, like, of all the teams, and they would have over the years have a really good spread, really competitive championship. It may still be competitive down there, but maybe the standard might be slipping a small bit if they're not producing the team, if they're not producing the players now coming into the Waterford team. But considering the talent that they've produced over the last few years, the likes of Jamie Barron and Austin Gleeson and these lads, and they've failed to get over the line at this stage, it's hard to see, like, Waterford have aspirations to go and win All-Ireland. Since the mid-2000s, they're saying, right, there's potential here. But if that's kind of coming through at the moment in Waterford, it reads for tough times for them over the next few years. And, just before we came on, Skehill mentioned about in Clare at the moment, the way kind of a rising tide raises all ships, like, that they're competing really well, and even in the football as well, that they're competing. That does a lot for a county as a whole and the culture within the county. So it's tough for Waterford. It is tough, because they certainly look at, they're surrounded really between Cork, Tipp, Kilkenny, and even Wexford. Whenever they have a chance, I'm sure give it to them in terms of the rivalry. But it's a tough position for where they are. You'd like to think that they'll be competing for many years to come, because the hurling championship needs Waterford. But if that's the statistics coming through, it looks like it could be a few tough years for Waterford before they get back up competing again.
Yeah, I hate hearing the phrase, and again reading the phrase in that article, that Waterford could do an awfully on this one and end up going into the second flight at some point. That's not going to happen because of blasphemy. There you go. Because of Munster system, that's not going to happen anyway. But leaving that to one side, Skehill, Clare might well be a bit of inspiration here, though, for Waterford, because it's not that long ago that everything about Clare was negative reading. Like, the newspapers for quite some time, the record hadn't been as good at underage level, and also there was all the off the pitch stuff, and you kind of thought maybe Clare can fall into a hole. And now here we are in 2023, as you said just before we went on air. So obviously this is all feeding into each other to a certain extent. They've been effectively living in Semple Stadium for the last few weeks with the amount of finals and semi-finals they've been going to. Their 20s are into the final on Monday, as we're recording on Sunday at the moment. So they'll be playing tomorrow in the under-20 final. Their minors have won the Munster Championship, and their senior team are now on the cusp of qualifying, you would think, for the Munster final. So it can be turned around in a fairly short period of time if the work is concentrated and it goes well. It's amazing what a kick a few teams doing well can have on everyone else as well.
Yeah, like, I suppose concentrated is a good word. And if you remember back there a couple of years ago, I don't have the year at mind to hand, but there was all the issue with finances and with sponsorship and with facilities and the way underage are being treated and their centre of excellence, etc., the state of that. And all that now, like, I think what came out of that, if I'm open to correction, was maybe a supporters club that kind of self-generated finance for all the teams. I think, am I right there? Does that sound ring a bell? I think I am. I think I'm right.
There was definitely massive fundraising, yeah.
Yeah, I think a group of, I suppose, club delegates or whatever you call them, business people, they coupled together and created this kind of Club Clare kind of situation. And that just started, I suppose, things kind of going, because we heard all the bad stories. And now, it's just, and it doesn't take long for this wheel to turn. It doesn't take 15 years to say when you've got a county like Clare, Kilkenny, a Galway. It just takes a couple of years to get the thing back on track and for the right process to be put in place. And when you put a process into a proud county and a good hurling county like Clare, it'll take a year or two. That's all, because people will adapt and they'll flourish. So for the likes of Waterford, that needs to happen because, again, I take everything I see on Twitter with a genuine pinch of salt because you don't know who's behind that screen or behind that profile. But there was like an overriding message in an awful lot of the tweets, specifically to Ken McGrath's tweet, if you saw it yesterday, that there was a lot given out about structures, youth policies, school championships, county board, etc., all that. And like I remember saying on Off the Ball a few years ago when Limerick played Cork, like you need an awful lot of things to go well for you, like 4 or 5 things. You need the team to be in sync, you need good sponsorship, you need the clubs to be behind you, you need county boards, assistance, all that. And all that is needed for a county to flourish. And it's hard to see how that's in any ways in place in Waterford when you look at all their teams. Well, like you said, hurling and football, is that correct? Football also?
Yeah, I mean the football has been going badly for a while for Waterford, but the hurling was. But see, the funny thing is, Skehill, last year, right, when people talked about Waterford, the narrative was so different when there is success with the marquee senior team that definitely the narrative seemed to be, well, you know what, Ballygunner have now shown that a Waterford club can go up to Croke Park and win an All-Ireland final. They had just won the league not long after Ballygunner's success, and then there was that feeling out there that this Waterford team is now primed to go and beat the big teams in the big finals and win the silverware.
I said myself, right? I said myself that when Ballygunner came back to Waterford after the club championship, it would add a kick to it. Okay, that's the way I genuinely felt, because Waterford had a panel of players that if they got an extra positive kick, it would work. However, to contrast, I don't think if you point to Ballygunner, you'll say, yeah, the club championships. Like, respectfully speaking, Schlockneil and Derry, right? Derry hurling, nowhere near Division 1. You know what I mean? Dunloy and Antrim. We're not up at the very, very top, let's say. So it's hard to point to a club and say, yeah, why aren't we winning when our clubs are winning? Should Galway have more club champions, I say, than a lot of people, I say, bar Kilkenny, obviously. So it's hard to point towards that evidence to kind of make to produce sound logic. With Waterford, I just think it's deeper, and I get what you're saying. When things go well, it paints over the cracks, but when things go bad, the cracks just open and they keep going. And like you said earlier, Murphy, you pull a thread and it just gets the rip just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and before you know it, you're in a hole that you can't fill in. But the only thing for counties like that is just you have to strip it all back and just start again. Do you know what I mean? What else can you do? You can't pick it up in the middle of an already bad run. You just have to kind of accept your position or your fate at present time and just fucking start again. That's all you can do. And there's loads of good people in Waterford. I know plenty myself down through the years, that have that are genuine hurling people and that will put in ferocious effort. And here I am. I'm not trying to give a post-mortem or say they're dead if they're not. But like me as a hurling supporter and as a traditionalist, I suppose, at heart, we need Waterford. We cannot let a county as proud as Waterford, go further down the ranks. We just can't. That's why, like, there's probably a question you'll ask later on, I'll answer it now. If I wanted to see a county win in Ireland, who would it be? And for me, it's Waterford. So
why?
Why? Because I suppose when I was 14, 15, 16, I saw the Paul Flynns, I saw Seamus Prendergast, all these kind of players, the names that Ken McGrath, etc. And I was like, they were the guys that kind of I had probably adapted inspiration from. No helmets, Dan Shannon, and you're like, geez, these lads are heroes. Brilliant. Then I got the chance to play against them, let's say through college and through county, and they were just genuine people. Not a bad word to say behind them. I haven't. There's other counties I could say bad words about, but in terms of Waterford, I didn't have a bad word. Supporters, no bad word, and I just think there's good people down there, and I'd like to see them in Ireland. Not at the expense of Galway now, maybe Kilkenny, yeah, definitely, but not Galway. They're likely starved one. I'd say it's back in the 50s as they will. When did they win that one?
It went over well over 50 years.
53 was it?
I thought that number's ringing in my head. Could be wrong now. Could be wrong.
Why did I have 59 in my mind at some stage? Was it 59 years possibly? I'll tell you what, Skelly, year I thought they were going to win, and you'll hate me for this. I actually thought in 2017 they were going to win the All-Ireland that year.
Yeah.
I really did. I was at the semi-final. They were incredible.
Yeah,
they were actually against Cork. They were brilliant. Yeah,
they were savage. Yeah, they were savage. But what they're missing out from today's team is people that we know. I'll never forget Kevin Morden going down. I don't know the stand side in Thurles, and he poked the ball over the bar. He ran so hard. He turned around, lifted his helmet, and got sick and kept running.
Yeah.
That's a lad now that absolutely put I'll never forget Ken McGrath caught a ball. He was going backwards and he caught it over his head the other way. The ball was coming from the opposite direction. That's the kind of people you're talking about. So that Waterford team of today, from back in 17 was missing Stephen O'Keefe, terribly important person. You know, fives, they're missing Morden. You know, they're missing, like, they're big people. They're missing
all the Mahdies, you know,
Mahdies, yeah. Like, them boys were, again, I don't know, can I keep them at the same level as the Dan Shannons and McGraths, but jeez, they pushed them close. You know what I mean? Yeah. And when you look at that team at the minute, they're avoided that.
Did a quick fact check, by the way. If that had been the crappy quiz, I would have got a point. 1959, they beat Kilkenny after a replay. So
it's impressive.
Nice little plug there, Will. Well done.
There you go. Crappy quiz will return at some point if you're a fan of the crossovers here between the crappy quiz and the Hurling Pod. Well, that's usually it's deliberately shit. It's not meant to be done well. You know, the idea is the questions are meant to be a bit messy. There's meant to be controversy around the quiz, which pretty much happens all the time. And therefore you call it the crappy quiz.
I fancy myself now as a bit of a quiz master.
Well, by all means, give it a go some week. I'm all for us having I remember we had the idea of a football pod against Hurling Pod quiz at some point. I think we can definitely do that. There was a couple of people who wanted me at the weekend who were saying, where the hell is the crappy quiz? Bring it back. And I said, well, send us questions. And apparently one of the listeners is going to now send me questions on the back of a cereal box, which is the way we like to get them in, either on a postcard or a cereal box. I think
if you're running that type of the crappy quiz, like
it is. And I think if that's the commitment that this person is putting in, they can have the quiz back. If you turn around at 24 hours notice and say, I've written 2 rounds of the quiz and I'm going to send them on a cereal box, I'll bring the quiz back just for him. We'll have a quiz this Friday. Nothing guaranteed. Clare then, Paul, when we look at their performance, because we've talked about Waterford an awful lot, I thought it was an efficient performance from Clare overall. Obviously not ideal losing McCarthy to injury. Then TK steps up, 13 points for Tony Kelly. Lovely assist for the Galvin goal. Okay, there were a few sloppy moments here and there. Some of the passing out at times wasn't quite as sharp as we saw from Clare in the previous game. But still, they will look at this as they went out, routine enough victory in the end.
Yeah, routine, that was really it. But nevertheless, I would still say that it's good in one way that Brian Lohan can look at it and say it wasn't a clean-cut performance in that, you know, we were well polished. There was mistakes, you know, and there was a few frees that were given away from over-carrying at silly times where players were looking up the pitch or players were just trying to take that ball on that small bit further. You know, good few fouls as well. I know I spoke about it against Limerick that their intensity was brilliant and that they were playing on the line on the border of, or treading the line, let's say, of, you know, getting booked and so on, which was appropriate, I suppose, for the Limerick game. Well, I would say it's appropriate, but I thought they gave away maybe too many silly frees that kind of kept Waterford in it at periods. Because, as you said, Waterford scored, what was it, 7 from play? Was that it?
7 all game, yeah.
Yeah, so the frees were really keeping them in it. So I think it's good in one way, you know, as in Clare are progressing on. You know, they're happy. When Waterford bent a knee a small bit, Clare kicked on. They got their scores. They got their goals. You know, they were clinical when they needed to be. But nevertheless, those handling errors and different things, at least Brian Lohan can go back into training now, Monday, Tuesday, whenever, point to those and say, look at lads, these are things we control. We might have got away with it against Waterford. You know, we won't get away with it the next day. You know, Cork are coming to town. We need to be really tuned in. It's a good thing to have as well. But nevertheless, I will say that, like, it maybe just showed, it felt like a training match at times, the game. And that can't be, Clare can only play what's in front of them. You know, they can't be expected to shoot the lights out when really tipping away in third gear at times was enough. So they'll be happy. They'll be happy as well that Tony Kelly, you know, really came back and put a mark up. That they didn't need maybe Aidan McCarthy if he did have a little niggly injury, whatever it was, that, you know, he could be rested there. And they have a break. Oh, no, sorry, it's next weekend actually they're playing, isn't it?
Oh, they're this Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, they're this Sunday, Cork, yeah. So, like, I think they'll be happy where they are. They'll certainly be happy where they are. And there's lots of positives to take from the weekend. But nevertheless, like I said, there was certainly parts of it where I just went, you know what? Clare won't be overly happy with parts of this either, in that when they were being handed the lead at times, they were just a little bit too sloppy. They gave away, like, Jamie Barron had a goal opportunity as well, like, and Lohan will point to that saying, look at lads, we've coughed up enough goals at this stage in the championship. We do need to tidy up with that as well. But look, it was routine, and it's not Clare's fault. And look, give them full credit that they went on, they won the match, and their focus now turns to Cork. And look, they'll be buzzing now that it's kind of in their hands to go for a Munster final. It's just brilliant.
Skehill, what was your assessment of their display then?
Yeah, I think it's very similar. I suppose I would have posed a question after the Limerick game about their about their tackling, whether it be style or efficiency, because like I always spoke about principle play with Waterford, and it looks like one of Clare's principles of play is to be ultra aggressive with all opposition, and that leads itself towards to being, you know, heavily refereed, a lot of influence the referee with regards to frees conceded, because Limerick, there was a world of frees conceded. You consider Burns got 5 points, Glenn, Tom Morrissey all scored a heap of frees. Same here, you know, the majority of Waterford scored, you know, 9 frees came from that also. It's just, look, I won't say it's a dangerous tactic, but look, it's working for Clare. Clare are getting through games like of late. You know what I mean? I think it looks like they've fixed up the potential issues they had at the start of the year in the Tipperary game with regards to goals, and they got through with 2 points. You know, they introduced Mounsey and Meehan, another couple of points in their subs. They got an impact. They got Tony Kelly flying around the place. Although the matchup from Waterford, they couldn't draw a rhyme or reason to it. And just, I suppose they're in a good spot. I think if you offered them this at the beginning of the year and say, right, we've got 4 points, we're heading in to our last round of the game against Cork at home in QC Park, will you take it to qualify? Yeah, they'll take that. Considering where everyone's taught, I suppose, where my mind was pre-Munster was Limerick are as close to invincible as they get, because on the back of obviously their league final display. So things have changed now. But again, we'll touch on Limerick in a few minutes. But I think Clare will be happy. They've got through relatively unscathed. I don't think they've any injuries, barring McCarthy, who will hopefully be back. Don't actually see good players injured. I don't see anyone injured. Sorry, not just good players. I have to save myself.
I think I know where you're coming from, Skehill. You want the best players to be available so you can watch them.
Correct. I wanted to showcase their skills so we can watch them, etc. So I like QC Park now next week. Going to be an intense environment, like we said earlier on. Clare are kind of riding the crest of a wave, and again, there's a lot of support, a lot of yellow in the stands. Cork are travelling well themselves, so that'll be an interesting fixture at the weekend. A very, very tight one. We won't call just yet.
No, for sure. Murph, there's a good question which was sent in here by CallMac79, which is the quirks of the way that the fixture list falls. So you're going to have Limerick and Tipperary playing at 4 o'clock this coming Sunday, and the game between Clare and Cork is at 2. So as it works out, Clare will have finished 4 of their games before Limerick and Tipperary play this coming Sunday. And he's asking, is it unfair that by the time that Limerick and Tip take the pitch, Clare will have already played the 4 games? The point being, I suppose, the way Clare's fixtures have been condensed.
It's really whatever way you want to view it yourself. Like, I look at this from a Clare point of view. It's in Clare's hands now that they can be in a Munster final before Limerick have played the 3rd match. That can essentially be it. Like, by the time this game is blown up, Cork and Clare at the weekend, and before Limerick start, Clare could be putting themselves 1 foot in the mouth. Again, results and different things have to play out. But they also have a break then as well the following week. So that, if there was one thing that people probably maybe agree on, was for the semi-final last year against Kilkenny, that maybe the legs and the energy just went out on Clare, that maybe they could have used a bit more of a break, maybe coming through Munster. And did they have a panel? And like, I mean, at times Tony Kelly was playing on when he had a cramp last year. I know he's an exceptional player, but it just points to the fact that maybe there wasn't players coming off the bench at that time. I do actually think they have a bit of a stronger panel this year now, a few more players obviously after having returned. But if you could view it in one way that, they've had a fairly arduous trek to this now, that they're about to play their 4th game, and then other teams haven't. But at the same time, if you turned around and said to Clare, right, by the time you've played your 3rd game, going into your last game, you'll have won 2, lost 1, but one of them wins will be against Limerick and you'll be on top of the table, to take your hand off. So that's where you want to be. You could view it as a negative, but I'd view it as a positive. Like, Clare out in the early match against Cork. They're playing in Ennis. They're playing against Cork. The buzz is going to be savage around Ennis. And they know, and which I think actually does suit Clare as well. Some other teams potentially might crumble under that pressure. I think Clare will love that, knowing that if we go and win this game, that's us. You know, we're through. Who knows what can happen? Other teams now have to sweat it out and see what results. And who knows? Limerick could be out of the championship. Whereas at least Clare know their fate to an extent at this stage. So, no, at this stage I'd view it as, no, it's good. If Clare, on the other hand, you know, were struggling with a few injuries coming into this weekend, and, you know, maybe the confidence wasn't there, it's not a good time to be playing. But I think Clare are happy enough, get the next game under the belt, let's keep going, and let's watch how the last round of Munster plays out. So I think that's the way they're thinking.
It makes for a mouth-watering day, Skehill, especially when you consider that you'll have Clare against Cork. The potential is there. Say if Cork were to beat Clare, Limerick are then actually playing for their lives at 4 o'clock when they play against Tipperary. If Tipp were to beat Limerick, that would be Limerick out of the championship, which I don't think too many people would have expected to happen earlier this year. So there's an awful lot on the line this coming weekend. Makes for 2 perfect fixtures, doesn't it?
Like, it's great from a neutral perspective. I think it's prime time TV, if you want to call it that, if it's even on TV. We won't cover that now.
I know, I think they are going to be on TV, but go on.
Like that one.
Go on. Yeah.
Did you like that one? Oh, nice one. I just dropped that one in there. But like, again, if you're doing your permutations at the beginning of the year and you set to yourself, right, Limerick on round 3 are in their championship is jeopardized. Like, you would never say that. You would never say in round 3, with 2 rounds to go, they could potentially be out of the championship. I'm actually laughing, thinking this is madness, like, you know. And it's possible. Look, I know you point to all the positives around Limerick and say they've had 3 weeks break. So they should be relatively recuperated with Keane Lynch, hopefully. Sean Finn's obviously not. You can imagine the type of training that's gone on in Limerick the last couple of weeks. You can imagine it's absolute madness in Debauchery down there. And they're heading to Thurles, where Tipp are on a good flight. And it's after the podcast last week, I watched back Cork and Tipp again, just one more time. And I said, Jesus, Tipp had 2 or 3 chances just to kill that game. Just to kill it, right? And in the periods where they were ascending to 4, 5, 6 point leads, they were class. They were really, really good. And they made Cork look like average, right? Now, Cork came back, don't get me wrong. But I thought that if Tipp can replicate that, which is difficult to do for a prolonged period, not just patches, they'll put it right up to Limerick. And you can imagine the Thurles crowd, Jesus, they'll be rapturous again. Very similar to Ennis, like, they're just, I don't know what it is with Munster counties, they go mad, but you know what I mean? Like, Ennis on a full day is great. Loads of colour, very loud crowd. You can feel the energy. Thurles is the same way. So with Limerick come down there, I think it'll be great. And I think the team itself, Limerick, they're used to this. I think they'll actually relish it. I think John Cahill and Park North will have this team and the team itself really looking forward to the challenge. And I think if they come over this game against Tipperary, it has the potential to kickstart the whole year again. But again, remains to be seen. It's a great weekend. Thank God we're at the situation whereby we don't have dead ducks. Like, if you had dead rubber games at this stage, it would just the championship peter out. So here we are again, round 3, and a lot more to play for.
Yeah. I mean, Paul, I was talking to your former teammate Tommy Walsh about this last week, and he was saying that in some ways this is the kick that Limerick might need to reignite everything for the rest of the year. That there's now that element of danger, maybe a few doubts about the way that they played against Clare. They go up against another of their big rivals in Tipperary. You're going into Semple Stadium knowing that you require a win, because that's their standard anyway. But also, you know that danger is there going into the game. There is that potential that we see a huge response from Limerick this weekend. Yeah, and I think we will see it. I know people will be saying that, you know, what will it do for Limerick's confidence after losing to Clare, and what are we going to see from Limerick? But like, when you really stand back and have a look at Limerick, like, it was an outstanding performance from Clare. Limerick have now had 3 weeks off to focus, and I agree with Tommy completely that I think this Limerick team, particularly with Kylie and Kinnerk there, have used that time so well. They'll be dialed in on this, and it'll be to kick up the arse, because I guarantee the pride will be dented in Limerick after losing to Clare, just because they hold their standards to the level that if they believe, if they perform every day they go out, they shouldn't be bet. Now, whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. That's what they believe. And they'll have, I'm sure, dissected that game to the last to say, where did we lose this? Where did we lose that? I guarantee John Cahill will be telling them, boys, listen, you were bullied. In the mental stakes, you were bullied. You know, Clare got into your face and you were bullied. And tempering that with, obviously, your incredible team and your brilliant players. But what good is that if you're going to go out on the pitch and get pushed around? So I do think we see a huge reaction from Limerick. And then I was just looking at it because, again, you know, they're great games and all these things, and there's huge scores being put up. But you have to look then as well, like, Limerick were beaten by a point the last day, and they're facing a Tipperary team who in 2 games have copped up 7 goals as well. It leads you to believe that Limerick can go, if they go at Tipperary, they can get goals. Now, Tipperary down the other end have been shooting the lights out as well. Like, they've been getting goals, but Limerick have conceded 1 goal so far in the 2 games. You know, so that leads me to say to me that, like, Tipp will have to try and unlock this Limerick defence, something that loads of teams have been trying to do over the last while. But I think we see a different reaction. I think we see Limerick, who are extremely aggressive. They'll be going for goal. Tipp are going to find it hard. And although Tipp have played brilliant and they're playing in Semple Stadium, I'm going to err on the side here that we're going to see a reaction from Limerick. It was 1 game, but these boys are going to be back up and going. I think we see Gerard Hegarty on the pitch from the start, Keane Lynch. I think we see Kyle Hayes pushed up the field and running at that Tipp defence, because one thing we have probably agreed on is that if you do get in behind that half back line and run at them, I mean, Declan Dalton's goal the last day, straight through the middle,
I think they're going to load that half forward line with players, even starting Kyle Hayes in full forward potentially, doing that thing of coming out around midfield and then suddenly he's looping back in at the goal, coming running. I think that's what we're going to see from him. And I think we'll be reminded potentially this weekend. I think it's going to be a brilliant game, don't get me wrong. And I think Tipperary are probably the toughest opposition Limerick could face at this moment, because Tipp will not fear Limerick for a second. I think the exact opposite. I think Cahill will just have the lads wound up to the last, and he'll be building on the fact that this is Thurles. You're flying it at the moment. We don't care who we're playing. We want to play the best teams. And I do think it'll be a brilliant, brilliant game. But when it comes down to the crux of it, you have to go with Limerick for this one. Well, I think you do anyway, because you can't write a team off on one performance considering what calibre of players they have in their team.
Right, Skehill, talk me through the rejig then, given that they have to make a change at cornerback because of the injury. And again, I was listening to Anthony Nash talking about this. He thinks this is a prime opportunity for Dan Morrissey to go wing back, and then you push Hayes up much further forward towards goal, and you get the best out of Hayes. So there is a possibility for a reshuffle here. You're John Kiley. How do you line out your defence for this weekend?
Yeah, if you remember after the Clare game yesterday, when we saw Keane Lynch potentially injured and Sean Finn definitely injured, we said it ourselves that the obvious thing here is to obviously reintroduce Mikey Casey, shove out Dan Morrissey, you know what I mean? Because maybe Rich English, etc. And then shove up Hayes, because I think the backs unit is not bad in Limerick. Like Clare beat them a point to say with all the pace they have, but just they need a small bit of energy up front, and it's particularly from 8 to 12. Just a small bit. I won't call the word rejuvenation, just a little kick. You know what I mean? And like, what better way to get a little kick than to introduce a horse like Kyle Hayes, like a gazelle, should I say, with the way he runs like that. If you remember the type of run we've become associated with Kyle Hayes is the run up the wing, and that seems to have been neutralised by opposition now at the moment. We didn't see it a lot against Waterford, we didn't see it a lot against Clare, so that kind of has been, I suppose, planned against. So now introduce something different whereby teams won't know where he is. I fully agree with Murph. Like I picture Kyle Hayes at 11 myself. You know, putting him in there, and Keenan's dropping off a bit. I think Tipperary are going to try and defend deep. They don't want high balls in top of Glenn and Flanagan. They don't want to concede goals. You can see goals against Limerick, and you're done. There'll be a lot of shots from out the field, and I think like Murph said, I think you'll see Kyle Hayes pop up, not in a specific position, but in all different pockets. I think he'll be told, just go get the ball. Just go get the ball yourself and Lynch and Hegarty, and just go get it and do what you can do. They won't have an overline level of structure, I believe. I think they'll just throw off the shackles and go after Tipperary. And I think they'll actually relish the chance. I really do, because like that now, they've been accustomed to victories, to winning, obviously, with their record. And their pride has been dented, I agree with that. And now probably they're looking for a response. They themselves, forget about the crowd, forget about nationally with media or people or neutrals. I think they themselves would hold themselves to a higher standard. And I think what they produced against Clare, by their standards, was substandard. So I'd say they're going to come out all guns blazing against Tipp. And like Murph said, Cahill will relish that too. Joe, come into our house and try to take something. You know what I mean? Let's say we'll put you out the door. That's the way he'll be counting to. He'll be warming up his lads, and like we've seen they can produce aggression and intent, which we saw in the league semi-final, but they couldn't maintain it. And ultimately, Limerick just kept at it. They took all the punches and hit the knockout punch at the end. So it's an intriguing affair. You can work up all these different tactics, but ultimately you'll see in the first few minutes it's just 15 on 15 going at it, and may the best team win.
I would like to apologise to every single forward that I've picked in fancy hurling who has become injured by being picked by me, it would seem. Jason Forde is the latest now.
And who else?
Killian Doyle missed the whole championship.
Leach in first day.
Leach in the first day. It's just been...
Did you have it in McCarthy? No?
I think so. I think I have him somewhere possible.
I drafted him in McCarthy.
I've injury after injury, and then it was a 3-week gap in fancy between that window and this one. And it's just like... the amount of players who've just been injured for that block may well be coming back or going to be injured the other side of it. So I've so many transfers to make the next time round. I don't know. It's going to be just hoping for the best from here.
I've resigned myself to the fact that I'm going to be wearing a fucking Kilkenny jersey at this roadshow.
I was actually started thinking about that now lately. Just
make sure you get double XL. Yeah, these fucking tight fit jerseys. I don't like them. Get a big one.
We can have a look into it. I'm sure we can find one. But Jason Forde been injured, Murph. How much of a blow is that to Tipperary? Now, Look, their forward line played quite well against Cork after he went off, but I thought Forde 007, as he was earlier in the championship when his number was number 7, I thought he was coming into the year playing really, really well. I think it's a massive blow for Tipp to have him out for 4 weeks. He's going to miss at least the rest of the Munster Championship.
It is, yeah. Like, there's no denying it. As good as they played against Cork, and you know the team kicked on and they got great scores. Like, Jason Forde is Jason Forde. Like, I mean, he just shoots the lights out invariably in most games. Such a consistent player as well. Creates a lot for players around him. He's just a steady hand in the forward line, and it'd be silly to say that they're not a small bit weaker just because Forde is gone. Like, I mean, he is their main man in the forwards, you know. So it's. Look, I'm sure, look, in Liam Cahill's head, he knows himself, look, you're going to ship injuries during the year. And in fairness to Tipperary, they've brought in a huge amount of players and they seem to have a great confidence regardless in who they're bringing in. The players coming in also seem to have confidence. And not only that, are taking their chances. So I think Liam Cahill will just say, look, it's very unfortunate, but, you know, Jason Forde has carried us manies a day where it's been tough. It's time now for everyone else to shoulder the burden and get in there and make sure that by the time he comes back and he's fit, that we still have something to play for and that we're going to be in the business end of the championship. So it is unfortunate, but at least it's a 4-week injury. Because the year is so condensed, other injuries can rule you out, and it's, for 8 weeks or anything, that's you done, So at least there's potential here that, we're not going to, we won't have seen the last of Jason Forde, but it's hard to say that it's not weakened in Tipperary by losing. It is, of course it is. But nevertheless, like I said, I think Tipperary will just go, look, they seem to have a mentality at the moment, whatever we have, and that's what we're going to go out and play with. And I don't think, from a mental point of view, I don't think it'll phase them. Obviously, from a hurling point of view, it's a few marks taken off them for skill and for having your marquee forward missing. But I still think if Tipper to win this match, they'll win it without Jason Forde anyway. I think it's just if they tick so many boxes that they're in line to win it, it's because of the panel they have. It's not just because of one player. And
does Seamus Cannon start?
I don't think so. No.
There's enough game time skill at this stage.
Yeah, like if Tipp loses game, are they gone?
Tipp got 3 points on the board, so Tipper in a reasonably strong position. Again, you wonder where Waterford are at going into the last round when Tipperary played them as well.
Like, all these things are pending other results. Like, I mean, you have to look at it going, like, right, if Tipperary lose, but then you'd imagine they're going to beat Waterford, but then you have to ask, well, what's Clare and Cork going to do? What Limerick and Cork going to do? You can't actually even comment on one game saying that this is going to be the end of someone's year until it's definitively the end of it.
Too many variables, isn't there?
Oh, too many. I was sat down here this afternoon and I said, right, I'm going to write down here the potential outcomes. And I actually wrote it down and I didn't do anything because I couldn't decide how to even start to, because there's too many variables.
That's a typical day's work for you anyway. And didn't do anything.
I just think, lads, if you're Tipperary, the way I'd be looking at it as a Tipp fan right now, they've gone to Ennis and they've gone to Páirc Uí Chaoimh. They've come out with 3 points, which would be happy enough with that, I think. Circumstance, they probably would have felt they should have won in Páirc Uí Chaoimh given where they were in the game. But then you play your last 2 games at Semple Stadium. Your last game is going to be against a Waterford team who have pride aside nothing to play for in the last game. And you reckon you're going to get to 5 points even if you were to lose to Limerick. I think Tipp are in a strong position to qualify, whether that be for the top 3 or for the Munster final. I was thinking, Skehill, you've watched the game twice now between Tipp and Cork.
Yeah.
Why are Tipp conceding so many chances?
So they're a bit. So at the moment, I'd say that they play quite a loose half backline. So like you can mark space or you can mark the man. Like, it's very difficult to mark both. And what you see sometimes now is if you've got a deep line half backline with a deep line midfield, you're consigning yourself to mark space and hand over men, if that makes sense. So if you get the half forwards who go in out to midfield and back and forth, they're handing them over consistently and communicating. With Tipperary, it just seems a bit more when you centre all the movement they have in their own forwards and midfield, I just see handovers getting lost. Do you know what I mean? And so they become very porous. So what happens is their half forward or half back line are shoving up a bit, probably a touch high, balls getting behind them, pace is getting through them. If you remember, like the Clare goals, they were very similar. So 3 runs, the 2 Rodgers goals, McCarthy runs, Dalton, Robbie Flynn, run. And when you attack them in pace in the half back line, I just don't think they have the pace to get back. Fabulous hurlers with ball in hand, do not get me wrong. But we get them going back to their own goals and ask Ronan Maher to run backwards, ask Seamus Kindi. It's just to run after Aidan McCarthy, to run after Robbie O'Flynn. They just don't have that extra bit of pace. You know what I mean? No, not a lot of teams do. Don't get me wrong. Like if you look at Clare provide excellent cover to John Connell, I think. Like how often do you see like Malone and Ryan come in and John Fitzgerald, David Mack, etc., like Fitzgerald, all providing cover in there. Same with Declan Hannon. Declan Hannon is no slouch by no means, but it's very rare you see him get turned and ran straight at. There's always cover there for him. I just think Tipp are a small bit open at the minute. Maybe it's because the guys that have up in the field are great shooters and everything, great attackers, but just probably a bit new to the whole setup in terms of systematic defending against top-level opposition.
Paul, we had a few people sending questions about play acting, simulation, trying to get your opponent booked, whatever way you want to view this. Quite a few came in about this, particularly off the back of the game between Clare and Waterford before we step away from it. Is it something that it needs to be clamped down upon? Because we've seen this happen a bit during the championship already this year, and we had a few, particularly when Hayes hit the ground at the weekend, where there's a certain amount of trying to get your opponent into the book.
Stop it.
Yeah. I mean, that was the big one. Like, I mean, other ones, you see it happen during the game and you forget about it nearly 5 minutes later. But that was different level now, that stuff. Like, a bit of a flick at the face guard and he hits the deck. And I think he kind of knew it himself because he got up fairly quick afterwards. I think he realised, that wasn't it. Yeah. There's cameras here that will show that actually wasn't much of a slap. Like if you were playing a club match or something, right, grand, there's not 20 cameras on you, not even grand, but how did you think he was going to get away with that? Like, but it is like, you do see simulation and you do see players now, trying to get lads sent off. And that's the problem. It's the trying to get people sent off, like trying to, I suppose, get the referee to make a hard decision. I know it nearly crosses over with another conversation, like, as in, lads traditionally on a GA pitch would tell a fella to stay down if he's after getting a serious knock. But that's if you're after getting a serious knock, like, and you've deserved a fair wallop and you're waiting to see what your man's going to get. But this crack where lads are in scuffles, like even, I know some people would argue with Cahill Lyons, like it was a yellow card when he went stupidly running in on Davy Fitzgerald and hit him in the shoulder. Like there was no need for that. But like to say that was really going to knock over David Fitzgerald, he's a big man. Like again, you'd have to put the question mark there, but it is creeping in. There's no point in saying it's not. It definitely is creeping in. But we've seen it other years as well. Like we've seen it. You go back 5-6 years ago and stuff, and when the face guard first came in, that it was straight red. Jesus, you breathed near a fella's face guard, and they were hitting the deck at times. Certain players were doing it. So, but particularly, we are seeing it at the moment, where lads are, very faint things, and I do agree that. I do think something has to be done retrospectively, that it's unsportsmanlike behaviour, if that's what you want to call it, that retrospectively you can punish a player for that because it'll knock it out of them. But personally, I think managers should be knocking lads out of it, saying like that's not what we're about, like hitting the deck to try and get a fella sent off. We either win the game fair and square, get out there and hurl properly and hurl bravely, but don't be hitting the deck and have our own fans looking at you rolling around on the ground even though nothing happened yet.
Skehill, you had a strong reaction. You said it makes you sick.
See, it does, because I suppose I've had this debate with a couple of soccer people locally, and the soccer people will tell me, yes, they don't quite agree with it, but it adds to the spectacle. So it's nearly accepted in soccer at the moment. Imagine that's the logic behind it. It adds to the spectacle. So you see all the, whether they be Mediterranean players, South American players, etc. And plenty of English players. Don't get me wrong. The slightest touch and down they go, and they say it's all part of soccer. It's all part of the spectacle and what you see. But in our sports, where it's a high contact, high octane, intense, bravado type game. I don't want to see that. Like that's a waste of time, in my opinion. Get up, like Rory Hayes and Jeff Fitzgerald, 2 top class hurlers. You do not need to do that. You're already in the ascendancy. You're winning well. You've got loads of quality in your team to overcome Waterford. You don't need to do that. So it actually like it belittles your standing a small bit, And I just find it very hard to kind of get the thought process of what are they thinking. And the only way I can think is they're trying to fool the referee into getting someone sent off. That's really it.
Yeah,
they're not hurt, so they're not fooling their medical team. They're not fooling their teammates. They're fooling the ref. They're attempting to fool the referee in order to get an opposition player sent off. And I can't agree with that. Do you know what I mean? If you want to go toe to toe and have at it right, then you go down. Grant, fair enough. But when you have such a light context trying to get a player sent off, not for me.
Yeah. Skehill, I want to ask you about this one because a few people messaged me during the Leinster minor hurling final. So I'll admit I was actually travelling at the time back from work while the final was on. Then I had a look at some of the incidents afterwards because even people had clipped them up. Again, one of your Galway defenders was coming out, gets hit with a fairly high tackle. The Offaly under-20 goalkeeper took a fairly high tackle during the week too. We were talking about high tackles last week. it seems these are just continuing on, Skehill.
Yeah, like I suppose I said my wife texted me after the game. She said I was on TV 5 yards on the pitch giving out at one stage.
Not surprised about that, but anyway.
Not new, but what I was doing at that stage was there was probably at that stage it was the fourth high tackle that I had seen, and probably the incident that you see across social media was about on a what's the name of the page? Hurler on the Ditch was the name of the page, and it's my own clubmate Donica. So he receives the ball from a high free. He's being tackled by one fella, and then the Kilkenny forward just comes in, turns. There's no hurl, there's no tackle, and he shoulders him straight at the head. You know, like that was a sickening tackle. That could have been seriously, you know, that could have been a bad incident, let's say, health-wise. But thankfully, he's all right. And that for me is an absolute straight red. It's without doubt. I mean, when you see it back, your stomach kind of goes, Jesus, that's a red, and just about a yellow. Like that can't happen. You know what I mean? It can't happen, regardless if it's an underage game. Youth, these are kids. I get that, but it's monkey see, monkey do. The kids see it in senior games. So like, in all this filters down. This is what we were talking about previously, last week or the week before. If you see that it's okay for, who was it last week? Ronan Maher to do it. It's okay for Ronan Maher. It's okay for Seamus Flanagan. The kids are going to do it. They're going to do it because they say, I get away with it. And signs are on. They're getting away with it. So like, it needs to be cracked down. And I don't know what we do about it. You know, at the time, I was probably 80 yards away from it, and I saw it clear as day. Clear as day, I could see it. He's after getting mowed down straight in the chin, and he's down, you know, in a concussion protocol. Had to take him off at halftime. You know, that can't happen to kids or any level. So the only way, I said last week, it's a management directive. It has to come from top down and it has to come all the way down before before people change, because otherwise you could have a detrimental incident, you know, in either hurl or moge.
Why is it happening, Murph? Is it as simple as lads have been watching these big hits at senior level and are now going in to try and level someone? But it seems in the last few weeks particularly, the amount of times the players are coming reasonably frontal with their shoulder out, and they're catching their opponent either high in the chest or in some cases hitting them low on the chin and knocking their helmet off. Like, there's been quite a few of these in the last few weeks. Why is it happening now?
Hard to say specifically now why it's happening, but definitely I think part of the reason is that players know you're not really going to get punished. Like, you might get a yellow card, but it's kind of the old saying in hurling, like, you know, if you're going to get booked, you might as well get booked for at least laying a mark on them. Like, that's not to say we all go out try and do head-high tackles, but if a player knows that they're going to go in and try and hit a lad's shoulder, but knows that if he misses, he's not going to really get punished for missing the target, but hitting a lad in the head. I think that's kind of a lot of what we're seeing, that lads are going in hard to try and hit someone. A player might change their body position and bang, you get smacked in the head. Now, it's a case-by-case thing. You can't say that works for every case. But I just think it comes back to just the one line that players know they're not going to get punished. Whereas if you look at it again, we can only compare it with the likes of rugby, where rugby, it looks at, you know, did a player do everything they possibly could to not try and hit somebody in the head? That's basically the way, you know, they pose it in rugby. And if it was a case where a player went in, like, even, it could also be a case where a player runs in and the player that he's tackling or she's tackling goes in and changes their body position, and it's not your fault anymore. You know, it just happened to be that the player in possession changed their body position, and they mitigate for that in, you know, they have that in rugby to see was there, but in hurling there's nothing. In hurling it's just, unless it's literally, like, I mean, we played 2015 final scale. We played, Johnny Cohen came out on Colin Fennelly, hurled around the neck, clotheslined him, Colin Fennelly hit the deck, yellow card.
He'd tell you himself straight after the game, straight red. He hands up, he said, but that was a straight red. He doesn't know how. To this day, he'll tell you.
Yeah. And it's not, this is it, and it's not about, like, you know, it's not that we wanted to go, oh, Johnny Cohen should be sent off there, but you're like, Colin Fennelly's feet came off the ground with a hurl around the neck, like, it just happened, you know, and you're just there going, nothing has changed since that, like, absolutely nothing, bar, let's say, the one in the All-Ireland final where James Owens decides to put it in against Richie Hogan, but after that, like, nearly name a high tackle that's been a red card in intercounty hurling. I can't think of one. I can't think of one in club hurling for even playing matches over the last while. So that, like Skehill says, that all trickles down into underage hurling. You know, lads will take raps in the head, but it's just the case that we've not put emphasis on this, so we're not going to send lads off. And also, we've not put any structure in terms of giving guidance to referees to say, well, look, if there is a factor that, for example, a player slipped and there's nothing someone could do, the on-rushing player couldn't do, fine. There's nothing around it at the moment. And if there is rules around it, of course there's rules around high tackles. It's definitely not being enforced. Like, we're losing our mind about hand passes, and we're losing our mind about, you know, the extra arm in and giving out about Limerick or whatever. But we're not, like, there's players going out there getting concussions, and we're not really doing a whole lot about it.
Do you think, though, that, like, the GAA they just operate on a too general basis? So, like, I know we put an awful lot of weight on the emphasis on the referee's report. So if it's not contained in the referee's report, sometimes the GAA will bypass it. But do you not think to say that it's the onus on the GAA to look at all these incidents and go, right, let's do like rugby do and cite you. You know, let's cite you, let's bring you to a hearing, let's show you the incident, and then you try and explain what your mitigations were or what the method of mitigation was. And if it's not a good enough explanation, you're categorized into the red card offence against category. So like, that's why I think I find it amazing that Seamus Flanagan wasn't brought up in front of the committee. And if you ask him himself, he'll tell you the same thing, I bet you. Or how Rona Matter wasn't, etc. You know, so unless they're shown at top level to be punishing the top players at senior level, it'll go down to 20s, it'll go down to minors, and I'm telling you, it'll go down to 15s, 14s, etc. Someone's going to get like busted. That's the thing. That's why I hate to see teeth lost or neck broken. I don't know. You know, that's a detrimental issue if you ask me. So it needs to come from the top.
I would say next time round at Abbottstown when the referees meet, this is definitely going to be discussed. It's one of those where I'd say the referee assessors will say this is something to watch out for over the next few rounds, because there's just been so many high profile ones, and the fact it was on the Sunday game last week I think will very much have put it in the minds of the referees assessors. The other thing I was wondering about, Skehill, is there actually any great benefit in landing a huge hit anyway? Because I would have thought, right, so a player's coming out in traffic, are you not better off to just get into a tackling position and make it difficult for them to get out, and they might possibly overcarry? What benefit are you going to get, aside from maybe a G up of adrenaline, if you actually drop a player onto his back with a really heavy hit there?
Well, I think probably if you get a big hit on a player, a good challenge, let's say, whereby you meet him shoulder to shoulder, you potentially knock him over, all you do is you get a moment of adrenaline in the crowd, in your team, and it's kind of like a bit of a G up, as you said yourself. That's really the extent of it. It's not a turnover. You're not going to turn over the ball. He probably most likely still has the ball in his hands. You know, it's not, you know, an opportunity to score, still has the ball in his hands, etc. So that's really it. You know, it's probably a signal. It's a signal of intent. You know, it's a signal of aggression. Our team is aggressive. Our team is going to be hard, physical, etc. You're trying to portray all these characteristics or traits in a team, and that's the extent of it. Like I can think of 2 hits myself that come to mind. I can think of the Pádraig Maher hit on Joe in 2016. Do you remember the semi-final? Tipperary crowd went nuts, right? And Joe ultimately got I think, did he get concussed or to go off that day? Maybe it was the wrong year, 16. Then the following year, Gareth McInerney does it to Pádraig Maher, and it was near like revenge. And a Galway crowd went fucking nuts again, and it created just a bit of like the whole team behind it. That was it. That lasted about 30 seconds. Do you know what I mean? 30 seconds, and that was gone. It was game over. It was like business as usual. So yeah, I get it. I think it's built up adrenaline, built up aggression. You know, it's how you get so psyched for a game. You're so physically aggressive. There's fire in the mind, fire in the belly, and it's just a way to showcase it. That's really it. From a tactical or tactical perspective, there is none.
Well, like Murph, when it comes to these hits as well, right? So aside from, as Skehill has just outlined, you get a bit of a temporary boost. If you get into one of those circumstances where you go in for a heavy hit and the player sees you're trying to hit them heavy and he takes a sidestep and goes the other side, you've actually made the wrong decision. You'd be much better off getting yourself into a decent place, and then they're not going to be able to walk out with the ball. Well, if they sidestep you, they could be gone. Yeah,
it's like you could approach this in lots of different ways. Again, that has to be case by case. So, for example, if let's say you're a forward, the back is coming out, you have to look at, first of all, if you have to jump on the back where the back doesn't know you're kind of coming and you can hit him a good shoulder, happy days. Because not only that, but it kind of it might, if it's early parts of the match, it might actually kill his confidence a small bit, thinking, geez, these lads are up in our face, they're aggressive, you know, kind of maybe puts a bit of doubt in his mind. But also then as well, if you get into a position where you might just want to get into a good tackling position, depending on the forward, some forwards are quite good at manufacturing frees out of, or backs or whoever, out frees. If you get in too close to them, get in around them, and makes it hard for a referee and you get a free out. So you kind of have to judge it in terms of, can you keep that small bit of separation? If you're going in for a tackle, right, I'm not going to lay a shoulder on him, but does he have momentum coming out now where regardless what I do, unless I hit him or stand up to him, he's going to pass me out? There's loads of different scenarios there. So I'd agree with you though, like, because if you go flying in on someone and he just sidesteps and you're gone out, you look stupid. And there's nothing worse as well, like when a lot of teams now train their forwards to go, right, let's say there's a sharp hook out coming. You picture there's a box with the corner back. Don't let him out of that box. Like, don't be thinking the bigger picture of, oh, if he goes past me, it's fine because there's a half forward coming in. And, you know, no, it should be, defense should be starting up with the forwards and that keep them inside that box. So then you just have to use the tools at your disposal. You're going to hit him a shoulder. Shoulder is risky because like that, if you miss it, he's gone out past you. So then maybe you do stand them up without fouling them. So it's really it's one tool to be used, but used well, it can win a serious mental battle as well. Like, you know, at a really important parts of the game, a good shoulder can sway momentum at times as well. But it's not the thing where you'd go out and you'd have all 15 players running and trying to nail lads with shoulders, because that won't work either.
Murph, you can take Sean O'Lake's question as well, which we already have Skell's answer, which is Waterford. In what county other than your own would you like to win in All-Ireland? You're nestled very near to other counties who you might necessarily want to pick here. So who are you picking as the county you'd like to win?
I know the answer.
You know the answer? Oh. Because I don't even really know the answer, I don't think. So you know the answer and I don't know the answer. He knows
you better than you know yourself.
I don't doubt him, actually. Yeah, we're WhatsApping quite a lot now, so I think he knows what makes me take. I went around the houses on this one because I was there going, right, first off, you don't want Tipp to it, so that's grand, that's one down. And then you're there going, right, who else? And like, I think nearly every team over the years when I've been playing, I was like, oh, Jesus, don't let them win the All-Ireland. And so I probably said it about everyone. The people in South Kilkenny wouldn't forgive me if I said Waterford. I do like a lot of the Waterford players, though. I know quite a few of them. And like the likes of, I would have loved to have seen Stephen O'Keefe, for example, win an All-Ireland. Like, he's a great fella, great player. Kevin Moran, another fella. You know, and even going back further, I would have loved to see them in. The likes of Kilkenny, we don't have a savage rivalry with the likes of Clare or somebody, you know. So Clare, yeah, look, it's not too long ago, 10 years since they won one. Look, I suppose I would have to say Waterford in this case, because who are you going to say, Skehill? You're after saying a
Antrim.
But I would like to see Antrim win an All-Ireland. I'd like to see Carlow win an All-Ireland. I'd like to see all those things win an All-Ireland.
I thought you'd say it's never got right because of me. I thought you'd go, nobody in Munster.
Well, I think the whole thing of, like, let's say, like, you've won All-Irelands recently and you have a history of winning them. Like, Waterford are the outlier there, really. You know, Cork in their palm.
We 5.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Just say it.
But then, like, when I go back and I think to the years I was going up in Hill 16 as a teenager and stuff, and like it was Kilkenny versus Cork, and like you hated the Cork fans because when they were going well, like, there's no more confident county than Cork when they're hurling well. Like, I mean, it nearly kills you to say it. But there's rivalry. Like Wexford, I have great friends from Wexford, but Jesus, like they still sewed into us about 96. Like, you know, I work with a lot of Wexford lads, and you know, the Leinster final where we lost to them, they sewed into us. So I think I'm scarred from every team. I think I wouldn't mind Dublin winning one as well, maybe. Yeah, I'll go with Waterford. Because I think, in fairness, a lot of those lads off the pitch as well are sound. And I apologise to all the people in South Kilkenny also.
That's two of us. Jesus.
Yeah. That's fair enough. I think I'd go for. I think I would have went Wexford. I was hoping Wexford were going to win it in 2019. The answer would have been Limerick before 2018. They've had enough success now. I'm not going to, you know.
Yeah.
They don't need any help from me.
I want to see Limerick win an Ireland. Such a boring answer. I want to see Man City win the Premiership. That's what I want to see.
Up until about 2018, I would have been more than happy for Limerick to end their drought and the miserable run they had in finals. Now you've won enough for a while. I think Wexford would probably be my pick on this one. But again, I wouldn't be against Dublin or Antrim or someone who hasn't won for a long, long time or hasn't won before winning one.
Now, to be fair, if Wexford won one, there'd be some material out of that, because like they write songs, they tumble the place, and like Wexford lads are good crack. So in fairness, if Wexford, they'd probably pull down the Hogan stand if they won it. Like, it'd be carnage. They'd have to rebuild Grove Park if Wexford won it.
Skehill, the best name on Instagram returned to our embrace this week as well. Showtime Murph, who has asked, is the sweeper now becoming obsolete in hurling?
I think it is. I suppose when hurling was like a full forward line dominated game where you're looking for deliveries which you still are to an extent, sweepers were relevant, if that makes sense. Whereas now there's an awful lot more running, you know, carrying the ball, like penetrating a defence, you could say, for oncoming runners and whatnot, and bypassing a sweeper, either going over them or around them. So I haven't seen a team adopted a sweeper per se. Every team has a deep line centre back, and then they hand over to a midfielder, and then when they attack, they push up again. So it's like teams that have been systematically designed now, whereby John Conlon, Declan Hallen, even Dahi Burkley can sit back. Callum Lyons, your 10-6, can sit back when they're defending and they have cover to come back into the middle. As soon as the ball turns over, everyone pushes up, they go back to Orthodox formation. I think when they adopt that system, it's the best method to having more defenders, and then when you turn them over, to have the same level of attackers, as opposed to having a man down, if you like, when you adopt a sweeper. So I'd say the sweeper, a structural sweeper, yes, it's gone. Bar the opportunity, bar the time you see, let's say, massive goals and talent. Like if you had a Limerick play at Westmeath, to be honest, that's when they adopt a sweeper. But beyond that, amongst the top tier counties, if you know what I mean, not to be seen.
Yeah, by the way, I was all for this idea about the draft, as we come round to it now in a moment, which Patrick Byrne put in, which I think is a great idea. For a draft, it'd be a good idea for each of you to have a few teams to draft for implementing that idea suggested about keeping players, which we were talking about last week. That way, Skehill isn't trying to outthink himself, far too late for that, and Paul isn't eating Weetabix while he's doing it. So Skehill would have Westmeath, Wexford, Cork and Kilkenny, Wilkin of Antrim, Dublin, Tipp and Clare. So basically all three of us would split the counties up, and then what would happen is we'd almost draft from that base and then go from there, and that would make it easier because it wouldn't be Skehill fighting against his own brain.
Thanks for telling me on the day I produced the draft. Thanks.
No, it's fine. It's done. It's in stone. The notebooks are there. We're not changing the style. And also there was at least 3 or 4 messages. I think I got a lengthy email from someone during the week too saying the much better idea is get Skehill to have a look at all the kids who are coming out of school at the moment and coming out of college and draft them. And I was like, no, we're not doing a Fitzgibbon draft. We kind of joked about that a few weeks ago. It's far too much. They want to play
junior search. Yeah, in 5 years' time, this kid's going to be 7.
But see, on the plus side, you get to name a trophy. You get to name the Heisman Trophy. Then you get to go, right, we're going to have a.
You're the Heisman here. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I have Google here, so I know what the Heisman is. Jesus.
Come here. Did you do a draft? No,
because we knew you were doing it. And again, this idea was a really good one, but I knew you were so deep into the idea. I didn't want to throw another variable in, which would be the two of us doing 4 teams each, and we picked the top 12. It would have just been a mess.
What would literally just happen was we would name a county team, name a player, and it would just be chaos. It would be everywhere. So we're just going to confine the chaos to you, Skehill. Well, your little part of the screen here.
Yeah, but see, the trouble is now, right? The trouble is now, I have left myself wide open now for criticism by you two guys. Because once I start naming names here, the level of ridiculousness that is going to come out of my mouth, right, in a pie in the sky scenario, is actually.
That's what we're here for, Skehill. We're not
beggars belief.
If you were to offer me at the end of this to say, what do you want? Do you want like an ultimate team, everybody's equal? No, I want chaos out of this. I want to be going.
I can tell you, right.
I want. Why is Johnny Pilkington going to Clare? That's what I want. What's happening here? Why is Martin Story centre forward for Limerick? What's happening?
See, the trouble is the hardest part of this, lads, right? Are we on the draft?
We're definitely moving that way. Yeah, go on.
Did you ever hear the segue, Skehill? That's what we've just after done. It's a segue we've gone into it.
Is to set the boundaries, set the rules, right, and stop myself. This is the gas thing. Stop myself from creating scenarios, that I think could actually play out. Like I had to stop myself earlier on from pulling out. Do you remember back in the day in FIFA and soccer and PlayStation, you can get a historical player.
Yeah.
Remember that?
So you're definitely not having historical players. That is not happening.
You have enough material. You have enough material.
I didn't do it because I was thinking, how do I get?
That's good,
How do I get Joe Cooney Senior into this? So I stopped there, right? Then I had to create a rule. I said, lads, if I just left it flat and pick as many players you want from each county, Limerick get decimated in the first round. So I said, right, my rules are, I have 3 rules. Or 3 rounds, right, of 11 teams. Then to rank the teams, in the draft in obviously in America, it's the worst team gets the first pick, the winner gets the last pick. So I said, how am I going to start this? I'm going to start in current standings. So I just went on last year's Finnish championship. That's all I could do. So Limerick have the last pick. So that means Antrim are first, Westmeath are second. And the way they finished last year, Tipperary are third, Dublin are fourth, Waterford fifth, Wexford sixth, Cork, Clare, Galway, Kilkenny, Limerick. That's the form of the draft, right? The structure.
Okay.
So the worst team gets the first pick, and then the best team gets the last pick. So then I created another rule. I said there's a max 4 players per team. So just to stop myself from decimating Limerick.
Okay.
And a max of 2 players per county per round. So for example, if Limerick has 4 players, I can't pick the first 4 in the first round. So I said I have to stop myself. I have to pick only 2 players.
Okay.
And then I can pick 1 in each round after if I want to.
Okay.
So that's what I said, right. And then I said teams cannot pick from the same team in each round. That was a good rule, I thought.
I think so.
Then I had to check it out, okay? Because that doesn't count. Okay. I take it out because it doesn't count.
So essentially, why are you telling us about this?
But then I said, how, if I have that rule, right, how am I going to, I have 11 different teams each round. So I said, no, fuck that. So I said, right, that was gone, okay? So ultimately, I'm left with the rules I just stated, okay? So round one. And before I start, right?
I'm going to top up my water now. I'll let you talk there. I'm just going to top up my water here now.
Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. I have a statement.
Go on.
Right?
Go on.
Would you believe the draft is so manic? Barry Nash doesn't get drafted. That's how big this is.
You're undermining this before you start. You should.
Yeah.
You should just address these things after the draft, because now I'm already losing faith in this.
So hold on, you're doing 11 rounds by 3. So
33 players.
Barry Nash not the most desirable 33.
Yes, hold on. But I can only pick 4 players per county.
All right.
Pick a max of 2 players.
Okay.
Right, so this is the restriction.
One of the lads in the top 3 hurlers last year is not getting picked. Okay.
Yeah, but bear in mind, lads, this draft has taken me 5 weeks. I'm not fucking joking. This has taken me 5 weeks, right? Like, the wife thinks I'm absolutely psychotic at the best times.
That's a separate.
So now
she's
she's
to do a draft.
now she's looking for solicitors. Like, she thinks this lad has way too much time in his hands. Are you at that effing draft again? I said I am, yeah. But anyways, so round one, pick one.
Right, before I start, I'm going to fill up my water. You fire away.
You fill the water. I'm going to write these down. Go on. We can review for him when he comes back. Go on.
So round one, pick one is Antrim. They've Keen Lynch.
Okay.
Right. Westmeath, Tony Clay, Tipperary, TJ Reid, Dublin.
Hold on a second. Don't go that fast. So hold on. Sorry. Antrim have taken Keen Lynch. Westmeath have taken Tony Kelly.
Yeah.
Who's next?
TJ Reid for Tipp.
He's gone to Tipp. Okay.
Yeah. Conor Whelan has gone to Dublin.
Didn't Tipp do very well to get to draft down that low? There you go. It was worth sandbagging last year.
Yeah, last year championship, man. It just turns into all types of madness. Dublin, Conor Whelan, Waterford, Garrett Hegarty. Now, rule. That's the last of Limerick lads that didn't get drafted. No one can draft Limerick. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, okay.
Wexford of Adrian Mullen.
Yeah.
Because they need a guy to win puckouts, right? Cork then have taken Dahi Burke. I think if they get Dahi Burke at fullback, they've got a rock solid fullback and they plow on.
So, Clare, not to stop you here, and we will take Clare in a second. So you've also drafted these with the intention that Cork need a player to play in that position, and that's why they've gone for him over someone else. Yeah,
so this was the hardest part of the draft. I drafted all these players with the current teams in mind, thinking, what can these teams use right now to make them better?
Okay.
So then I said, Cork will Dahi Burke, they'll take him. Clare, then I said, right, they're pretty well fixed from full forward line back. I said, you know what? Owen O'Donnell would be a good pick for them to have for full back line. It's the only line you see in the Clare team you can say that could slightly get a bit of an upgrade.
Extra strength, yeah, okay. Owen O'Donnell, yeah.
Same thing, Galway. I said, right, you know what? Galway could do a Shane O'Donnell. Bounce around the middle there.
Okay.
Kilkenny, forgive me now, I don't think they've had a rock solid centre back guy who they can depend on for years to come. So they're going for Tadhg Burke.
Okay, that'll be popular.
And then Limerick then, right, who can Limerick draft that can fit into their system? I picked Noel McGrath.
Okay.
He hops in there at midfield.
So they lose Keen Lynch and get Noel McGrath.
Yeah.
And they've also lost Garrod Hegarty to Wexford as well.
Correct.
Waterford, sorry.
And now in round 2, Antrim are taking Kyle Hayes. It's the third Limerick player gone now, right? So they've only got one left.
Okay, go on. You keep going. We can work the rest of this out. I don't know. I put them up here. Round 2, Hayes. Go on.
Yeah. Westmeath are taking Cahill Mannion. Tipperary are taking Jimmy Burns. Now, Tipperary have TJ Reid and Jimmy Burns in the first 2 rounds. That's not a bad round, lads.
No, they've done all right. It was worth not getting out of province last year.
Yeah, that's the Limerick can there's no one else can take any more Limerick players. There's 4
I love the way you said Tipperary have done well out of this, haven't they? You created this. Geez, that's mad how that worked out.
So at the end of each draft, right, in America, they go down through all the teams and they give them a grading. I've graded every team here as well. A+, A-, B+, B-.
You've graded the players that you have picked.
No, I've graded the team. How have they done overall?
Okay.
So like Antrim, I've done an A+ here, right? At the end of it, okay?
It's not bad now, yeah.
So Leeds team's going to Dublin.
Okay.
Yeah. So now Dublin have Conor Whelan and Leeds in. They have 2 marquee forwards that they can fire up the ball there to. So they don't need to be shooting on sight.
Yes. I love the way you're saying this thing. Right now, next, Lee Chin's going to Dublin. That sounds like just a statement. Like he's going to Dublin there.
Well, I'll tell you what. Hugh Lawler's he's going to cross the border. He's going to Waterford.
Hugh Lawler's going to Waterford. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Robbie O'Flynn is going to Wexford.
There is lads everywhere here.
Oh, I tell you, Robbie O'Flynn's going to Wexford. Rory O'Connor is going to Cork because Robbie O'Flynn's gone to Wexford.
Do you know what I just pictured that this sounds like? And if you try and picture this from now on, this sounds like where all the lads are going on their summer holidays, right? So Hugh Lawler's going to Waterford. Robbie O'Flynn's going to Wexford.
If that's the case, Owen Cody's packing bags and going to Kilkenny. Because Owen Cody is heading for the banner.
Cody's going down
Clare
for the flag.
Shane O'Donnell, we're in dire straits.
This doing Barnett, right?
Oh, who are Kilkenny getting?
So Kilkenny are getting Jimmy Byrne.
Jimmy Byrne's going up for the Cats Laughs Festival, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Galway are getting Jimmy Byrne.
So Galway are getting Jimmy Byrne. Who are Kilkenny getting? Sorry.
Kilkenny are getting Kieran Joyce. Because they've lost Hugh Lawler. And Limerick are taking John Conlon. Because they've lost Kyle Hayes and Jimmy Burns. So they need a steady man there as well beside them. So John Conlon's hopping in there. And the last round, right? Bear in mind, Antrim have already got Keane Lynch and Kyle Hayes. They pick up Ronan Maher. Okay. This is a fabulous draft for Antrim.
It's not bad now, in fairness, yeah.
They were bound to do well. Come on now. They're the first pick in each round.
So Westmeath in. They already have Tony Kelly and Kyle Mannion. Now they're going to just go, fuck it. We're going to outscore everybody. And they pick up Daisy Hutchinson. Right. Simple as that. Now, who's getting the ball to them is another thing, right? But they're just going to...
Who's getting the ball up to?
I don't know. I mean, Tony Kelly might be able to set him up for a few.
Yeah. Who's getting the ball up to?
So Tipperary, right?
Tommy Doyle will land the ball down. Have you already?
Tipperary have TJ and Jimmy Burns, and they have Joseph Cooney as well. Now that's a solid pick.
Well, yeah. Where's the thinking here now, right? So why? Because they've lost Ronan Maher.
So three things, right? Number one, they've lost Ronan Maher. Number two, they've picked up a hybrid in Joseph Cooney. He can go hybrid. He can go centre back, wing back, midfield, centre forward, wing forward. So I said, in American terms, he's a valuable draft pick. He has loads of what to say in America, upside. Okay, so he's loads of upside.
So Dublin are taking a defender here, surely, if they've lost Owen O'Donnell in the last round.
No, they're taking Aidan McCarthy.
Wow. So you're just going pure firepower for Dublin then?
Yes, there's three teams I've picked firepower for. And obviously you can see I've picked firepower for Westmeath, but I've also picked it for Dublin. And say, right, let's go at it.
They're having a 4-litre engine with no steering wheel here. It's just okay, yeah, go on.
But then Waterford lost Deise, right? But they haven't quite replaced him. So now they already have Gareth Hegarty on one wing. The Hugh Lawler can go at 6 or 3. And now they've got Declan Dalton going on the wing. Right? And they've also picked up another solid free taker. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. Now, Wexford like that. Wexford need a free taker, lads. We know this. They need a free taker. They need a solid free taker. So who am I going with? I'm going Donald Burke.
Okay.
Right. Cork.
So they basically swap Leach in for Donald Burke then.
And they've lost Rory Connor, but they've got Robbie O'Flynn and Donald Burke. So they've got still kind of the strong man running forward, but they've got a free taker who is pinpoint.
Oh no, but my point is Lee Chin's gone to Dublin and they've taken Donald Burke.
Theoretically, yes, yeah.
Yeah, Wexford are kind of breaking even. Well, not breaking even, but in terms of scores on the board.
Yeah. Now, this is a shot now because the last couple of games he's been impressive. Cork are taking Keelan Malloy. Antrim.
Yeah.
He's been good. He's been good since he was impressed with Kilkenny last week.
He's been replaced. He's been replaced by Hayes and Lynch, so it doesn't work out too badly. Yeah.
Clare then, right. If there's one man that can handle this lad, it's Brian Lohan. Have a guess.
Austin Gleeson.
100%. You're on the money, my friend. So telepathy is your strong point.
Jesus. I don't like how in sync we're getting here. I sent Skehill something there the other day. I won't say what I sent him something, and he just texted me back. It's like, Jesus, you know my sense of humor.
I know how he knows. I love this. Oh, we're 3 left then. 3 picks left.
Oh, Lord.
So Galway now have lost Dahi Burke, right? So we need to bring back a full back. So we're going to go over Liam Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to pick Liam Ryan for Wexford.
By the way, Skehill, I appreciate that you didn't just really load Galway up here where the opportunity was there.
No, because that would be just... I was trying to think, right, I could do it completely biased and then leave Keane Lynch, Kyle Hayes, and Carol Hegarty until pick, 10 in each round or 9. No, this has to be strategic. It needs to be nearly relative to today's teams and try to place as best they can. So Kilkenny have already lost Owen Cody and TJ Reid, so now they're pulling in Patrick Horgan.
Okay. And then who did Limerick taking last round?
Last but not least, Limerick are taking Seamus Cahill.
Would you not take Forde over Callanan, no?
Forde's hurt. No, he's injured, lads.
So you're doing this in real time, even the lads have been injured at the moment.
This is a draft. He has a 4-week hamstring injury.
I had Jason Forde. Can you see it there? I had Jason Forde. No. He scribbled out there. Okay, that's scribbled out.
That's flaky at best now. That is.
Yeah. Well, the Patriots in the first round, right? They drafted a guy years ago called Dominic Eastie. I'll never forget him, with a torn cruciate. Didn't play. Played around the games. They thought he'd heal, get back better. I know Jason. I know he's got a hamstring injury.
He's a mild hamstring injury, and you've just wrote him out of a full 33 minutes.
But there has to be an element of madness in this thing. You have to understand.
That was there. It was there.
Barry Nash doesn't get drafted. Like, for the love of honor, David Fitzgerald didn't get drafted. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Owen Murphy didn't get drafted. I mean, the Lord God, it's mad. But I'm back through it again. I wrote it out on clean paper because I had so many scribbles and asterisks and everything, and I was like, yeah, I'm happy with that. And the best team who did out of the draft was Antrim. They got an A+.
They did all right, yeah. You didn't draft a single goalkeeper.
No, didn't. I said goalkeepers, they're a bit like kickers and punters. They come around five or six, but I haven't got time for that.
Fair enough.
That would drive me into complete
10 weeks.
Yeah. Now you're going to ask me to go do rounds 4, 5, and 6. No, I will not. Can't do it. Can't do it.
I'm going to have to make a spreadsheet of this now to put it up online. Otherwise, people have to watch a 4.5 minute clip and do what I did and write all them down. But you've got Antrim A+. Who got an A in the draft then?
So teams got an A in the draft. So Antrim got an A.
Yeah.
Westmeath got an A. In fairness, like, you know what I mean? Limerick got an A. And Wexford got an A. I think Wexford did fair well. They got Adrian Mullen, Robbie O'Flynn, Donald Burke. It's fair firepower, that's.
It is, yeah, but like you have to argue though as well that because Lee Chin and Donald Burke are quite similar in terms of they pulled the strings. Like they broke even there in that one. Like two really good players. Like
I thought Adrian Mullen, right? So I said Adrian Mullen, he'll account for Rory O'Connor. And I said, right, Robbie O'Flynn will account for Lee Chin. Or not all of it, but I'd say 90%. And then Donald Burke chops it over with the free taker and the shooting from on site. It's not a bad draft, lads. However, they've lost a fullback. They've no fullback. So they've not jumped to bed.
Go pick up a fullback in the 5th round, it'd be fine.
So then I gave a C, then I was like, right, who did I give? Who was good but not great? And I had to go, Jesus, a B+. I gave Galway B+. I said, good, but not hectic. See, we've lost Dahi, we've lost Connor, we've lost Joseph. This is me talking about, and we've lost Cahill, right? Sorry, Cahill, Dahi, Joseph, and Connor. Yeah, last 4 players, and we received Shane O'Donnell, Jamie Byrne, Liam Ryan. So we're still missing a bit of firepower up top. But yeah, that's the sign of madness, really. What I'm actually doing. But it was a bit of fun actually when thinking about it, but it just took me 5 weeks.
On a final one, how do you assess Clare then? Because Clare have lost their 2 key scoring forwards here, and they've lost their centre half back. They've got Owen O'Donnell, Owen Cody, and Ozzie Gleeson.
They got Ozzie Gleeson, Owen Cody. So yes, so like you're not going to be able to equate Tony Kelly. The only person you can equate Tony Kelly in realistic terms is probably Keane Lynch, or possibly Kyle Hayes, maybe. But you're not going to, get someone who can match him. But they've not done too bad. They have O'Donnell who can slot in. We know that for a fact. Owen Cody, top drawer, open play. Not sure if he can take freeze. So, can he?
Yeah, he probably can.
But they've lost Ed McCarthy as well. I know that. So this is the type of madness and ridiculousness. So I'm like, shit, they've lost Ed McCarthy. So they have to go back to the drawing board and say, right, who else can I take? But then, no, I'm taking him. Dublin are taking him. There's no mercy in this draft, lads. We want the lad, we're bringing him.
Murph, you can take the mantle on this, because there's a follow-up here which came from Sarah Nell, the former Dublin and Cork camogie player, who was talking to Jamie Wall, and they came up with the idea, which was actually inspired by Skehill a few weeks ago. I think a clip had gone up about the draft, and the idea was if John Kiely could draft in any 3 players. Now, you don't have to do this in any kind of rounds or anything, Paul. But just pick 3 players that if John Kiely could select them right now would boost the Limerick paneler team. Who would you pick?
I would pick... well, first of all, my thought process to this would be, where is he loaded with players in terms of even lads sitting on the bench, and where might he have players of similar styles playing in similar positions so he could do with something else? So first of all, went Tony Kelly for a kind of around middle of the field, half forward type area. He could drift between that. Like when you consider, obviously, Limerick's midfield is top class with Darragh Donovan, William O'Donoghue, but, you know, workhorses, get in there, do a lot of tackling and stuff. Tony Kelly would be a bit more of a creative player to maybe assist with Cian Lynch's role, and also would maybe, I suppose, if teams are zoning in and Cian Lynch and everybody else going man for man with, you know, William O'Donoghue and these lads, well, Tony Kelly is now another problem that they go, well, we can't leave this fellow unattended. So now we have to mark Cian Lynch and Tony Kelly. I think he picks Owen Cody as well, because I think Owen Cody is just that. I mean, he's just a brilliant player. Take the ball whatever way you want to give it to him, he'll take the ball. You can play him in deep, you can play him on the half forward line, doesn't really matter. He's just, I think he's just a brilliant player. You couldn't leave him behind. The other one then, I'd say, I actually think he probably picked Deise Hutchinson, because just your out and out, like the full forward line, in fairness, for Limerick has been fluid over the last few years. You know, players have come in and out depending on what John Kiely reckons they need. But I just think that out and out forward that is literally starting on the corner of the box, I think he would happily have the likes of Deise Hutchinson there, knowing that that's his only job. He doesn't have to come out the field. He doesn't have to do whatever. He does what he does. Like, if you get the ball in his hand, his change of pace is so electric that he'll just get you scores. Then that's absolutely, like, that's it done. So he wouldn't be going for goalkeepers, full backline loaded. I think he has enough in the half backline as well. So I just think in that midfield, half forward line, full forward line area, that's where he's going to try and go creatively.
What is he replaced then?
Well, what I said with Tony Kelly is that if he was bringing in Tony Kelly, he's most likely dependent on whatever he sees fit, Darragh Donovan and William O'Donoghue, because they're quite similar. That's the only reason. They're exceptional players. Like, but if you're to be hard on this, you're saying, well, where are you putting them? You put them in there because you'd be trading off of having an absolute workhorse getting on loads of ball mixed with the creativity of Tony Kelly and the danger he poses coming from that midfield area.
Gone.
What?
Donovan's gone in this other realm. Donovan's gone.
Yeah. Okay. Right. You're going right. Well, you picked Darragh Donovan there, right? So one of them. I'm saying one of them's gone.
I had to get your hold off the fence there now, right? So yeah, get you off the fence, okay? So
right. We'll go Darragh Donovan there. We'll go Darragh Donovan. Right. Grand. Who's second? Oh, Owen Cody then. So where's he going? Where's Owen Cody going?
Saucy. Now? This is saucy.
It is tasty, isn't it? Oh, I think Owen Cody is going in. I think he's going full forward. I think instead of Seamus Flanagan, he's going full forward. Bold call, yeah. But I'm looking at it going, Gerard Hegarty, I think most days starts number 10. Cian Lynch is Cian Lynch. He's 11. And again, I have huge respect for Tom Morrissey and the role he does. Like, he does enormous work there. So then I'm thinking, like, Seamus Flanagan has started some games, and there's been, 2 or 3 matches last year. You go back, he wasn't, go back as far as when they won the first All-Ireland. Seamus Flanagan looked like he was going to be the out-and-out full forward for Limerick for the next few years. But then drifted a small bit. Again, red cards and different things. There's a few things there. So I think if it were to be a tough call, you have great options to have Seamus Flanagan, Owen Cody. I'd pop in Owen Cody there. And then...
Just dropping this in here now. Are you playing Deise Hutchinson in the current Waterford role then? If you're going to play a 2-man inside forward line, are you going all out?
No, I'm going all out. I'm talking that you're putting in Deise Hutchinson's in the full forward line. You're having Aaron Gillan, Deise Hutchinson, and then you have Owen Cody starting at full forward, but then maybe drifting out, creating space for 2 boys. And literally, Deise Hutchinson and Aaron Gillan are in around that 16-yard box, and they're just causing problems inside. Because you look at Aaron Gillan, brilliant from behind. That this sort of way where, like, he drifts behind the players, goes in, catches the ball. Deise Hutchinson land the ball in front of him in the space, and there's no back in the country has the speed to get out in front of him. And then you have Owen Cody just coming out. We saw it against, let's say, last match against Galway, where he's just able to just ball pops into the hand, whatever way it comes, right or left. He just puts his hand down to it, takes it. And then you have runners shooting off Gerard Hegarty and different things. That's the way I'd be looking at it, that he's a player that's going to make that ball stick. And like the last time Owen Cody had a bad match and wasn't like, getting great scores. He just goes out and does it. Granted, the league final, he found it tough to get on ball. In fairness, Limerick kind of snuffed him out. But I think within the Limerick setup, he'd just flourish again.
Skehill, would you draft anyone different?
I have enough drafting done now.
Enough draft. I did 3. He did 33.
The draft is done.
Murph, I had 50 players there I couldn't think of, and then I had the players I was bringing in from years ago. Jeez, madness!
Right, 3 players now. John Kiley's taken in. You don't even have to explain where they're going.
Yeah,
big 3.
Who would you take? Any 3 in the country you can have.
Because you've just okay.
Conor Whelan.
Okay.
Mikey Butler, because Sean Finn's injured.
Well, I'm marking you down for Mikey Butler now, right?
There you go. You just broke his heart by stealing Mikey Butler away from him. A few more comments.
How's your lighting so good, lads? What's going on here? How is your lighting so good? Like, your lighting is fabulous, Will.
I wouldn't.
Will has about 10 screens in front of him. So
I wouldn't say it's fabulous, but yeah, there's obviously a bit coming back from the screen, which is giving me a bit of whiteness there, and I've got a ring light up in the corner. It's not as good as the light was earlier when the sunshine was coming through, which was really blinding me at one point. But now, yeah, it's just a bit of a ring light in the computer there. So.
You actually look like a fella from a hostage video or something, Skehill, now. Like,
yeah,
that room is creepily dark. Like,
there's a certain Blair Witch Project quality to it. All right.
I'll tell you now, Murph, my ransom will be quite low.
Hold on to him. The message that comes back.
I'd say keep him.
A few more comments just to work through. Philip Brett, great show, lads. Tell Skehill we're all taking his phrase about shitting his own pint for our own use. Classic Skehill. Also, Tipp, while clearly left behind them last Saturday, probably in a good place to qualify. I agree with you, Philip Brett, on this one. I really can't see Cork getting out of Munster at this point. They look the weakest link. At times they were beaten up by Tipperary in the middle third. Based on what we saw in the last 2 weeks, I expect Clare to beat Waterford and Cork in Ennis. Well, half of that's come true. Limerick will probably bounce back and beat Tipp. Tipp will probably beat a Waterford side with nothing to play for in their final game. Tipp on 5, Clare on 6. This will result in a winner-takes-all game between Cork and Limerick at the Gaelic grounds. And for that one, you would have to fancy Limerick. Look, there's a lot of variables left in these 2 last rounds of games, but I think Philip has probably summed up the situation nicely about where we are at the moment. Also, Tipp Fan Man, which is a great name for YouTube. Watching Declan Dalton underage, he looked like a man against boys. He's progressed since then. Has the skills. His aggression is something not many of the Cork forwards have shown in recent years. Couldn't understand why Kieran Kingston didn't give him more game time last year, but they continued with similar lineups, which had just fallen short in the past. Now he's in the team and doing his stuff. I'm bulling. He's one of those players whose talent is obvious, but he brings that streak that a team needs. That type of player you love if he's one of your own, and you hate him if he's on an opposition team. We were talking about Declan Dalton last week and his improvements. So he's got a fan in Tipp Fan Man there who's not enjoying the fact that he's playing well against Tipperary's rivals currently. And also, look, I was going to go into GA Go. John from Limerick sent me a really lengthy mail about GA Go and some ideas that he had. Might return to this in a couple of weeks' time. I have a lot of fatigue about talking about GA Go with the week that's just been. So let's maybe go back to that. I mean, one of the things, Paul, congrats to Don Logue for shooting himself in the foot after everyone last week going, there's a man who's now fighting for the game and who's fighting for the smaller teams. And then he turned around and called all the Tailteann Cup teams also rans and gave out with the competition. And now the public opinion has turned on him.
Yeah. Remarkable week for Don Logue, and like really good, I suppose, honest and frank speak he did last week on the Sunday game, and we complimented him here. But then, I saw it. Was it Colin O'Rourke came out and said something about him? Obviously enough that they're competing and they're really going to take it seriously, the Tailteann Cup. And like, I thought it was a crazy statement considering we saw the scenes in Westmeath last year, and that it was something tangible that teams can go and win a game in Croke Park and have a cup. And I thought it was a random one that he came out with. Now, maybe I haven't read into it enough, the context on it, but I mean, I don't know where that came from. And crazy week for him. Like, that was just remarkable.
No, also particularly at a time when, if you're a hurling person, the debate you want to make is that the Joe McDonagh is not getting enough love, and give it as much love as the Tailteann. That's the argument you want to make about the Tailteann.
True, yeah.
Joe McDonagh at the weekend, the minute the teams came out on Friday, it was pretty clear that Offaly had decided to say we're in the final already. This is a chance to play players who've not been getting much game time. After the game, Johnny Kelly, their manager, said 3 of their frontline players, particularly their 2 most important players in Keelan Kiley and Owen Cahill, were both out from knocks from the Kerry game. Keelan Kiley is still going through the return to play protocols after that head hit that he took, so he wasn't available for selection. And there were plenty of Laois people, and the Laois manager, Willie Maher, said after the game that he was very disappointed that Offaly had opted to make 12 changes for the Carlow game. I think it was 11 changes once the team started. 4 who played against Kerry the week before started the game. Carlow went out, won very comfortably and topped the group in the end, 129 to 14 points. The thing I would say to this is, Laois rotated in 2019 when they played against Westmeath in their last group game. Both teams went to the final in the end, but Laois, understandably, and I think quite cleverly, rested their players for the final, went through to win, and as we remember, they beat Dublin and got to an All-Ireland quarter-final that season. Antrim last year rested ahead of the final against Kerry, and Carlow missed out as a result. So swings and roundabouts, I think, sometimes. Skehill, I think if you get to the final, and in this case Offaly did it with a round to spare, I don't think you owe any obligation to any team who are below you going into the final round of games. You do what's best for you.
I think if you're talking specifically about Offaly and what their mind space would be, is they've had a terribly hard run of it, of which we've discussed over the last number of weeks, whereby they had 8 or 9 games in 10 or 11 weeks. Is that right?
9 and 11, I think, yeah. 9
11 weeks. So that team, and probably 23 players have had a tough run of it, tough, hard slog of it. So if you're afforded the opportunity, and in this instance you are, to rest some of those key players, wouldn't you do it? Because Offaly's objective at the beginning of the year is to win the Drummond. It's as simple as that. Just get back up to Lee McCarthy hurling. So they'll do whatever is necessary to do that. And I understand that, say, there's teams who were within a shout of getting qualified too, but they don't owe you anything. Like if that opportunity arises for Laois, if the roles were reversed and Laois were in Offaly's position, there's nothing as sure as they do the same thing as well. Because it's an ultra-selfish game. It's a dog-eat-dog. So I wouldn't be belittling Offaly's intent there at all, because I just think it's selfish, and it has to be selfish. If you want to be successful, you've got to be selfish and look after number one.
The other thing as well is, Paul, I didn't like that people almost belittled Carlow in all this. Offaly could have put out their strongest team against Carlow, and Carlow may still have won.
Yeah,
Carlow on a great run at the moment.
They are, in fairness, and sure, was it against, I'm trying to think back, Kildare in the first round, where really Carlow just came out of the traps, kind of caught everybody unaware. But no, absolutely. And we've seen, in fairness, Carlow over the years have made really good steps, and they've had competitive teams, not only in, club championship as well, but, they've been making strides for, at inter-county level as well. Okay, granted, the structures aren't in place for them to really make big strides, but nevertheless, Carlow have proven on several occasions that they're extremely dangerous and that they have high scoring forwards as well. So look, by no means was it ever going to be simple for Offaly, but it's I think what Carlow have proven, particularly even this year, I think it went down to Kerry then as well, sure, didn't they, the following week after beating Kildare?
Got a draw.
Got a draw, yeah. So at that level, it's kind of a case of, I suppose, the Rocky Parish on taking Carlow for granted going into any of these games.
Yeah,
Carlow scored. There's 5 games in the group, and they scored 157 points.
Yeah,
so they're shooting 31 points again, 31 a bit. That's fair shooting, lads.
Yeah.
And the contrast. That's why I looked at the table before earlier on to see where Kildare had landed in their score difference. Jeez, I just didn't see that coming. You try to make predictions, and usually you're within a hen's kick of a prediction. I didn't see them being minus 50 odd, 55, 56 points at the end of this championship.
No, I didn't. I had a message, Skehill, someone was saying the power rankings after the league, it looked like there was a very clear setup, because a lot of the teams here have played each other in Division 2A and then go into the McDonagh. You're the form just upturned on Kildare entirely. And bear in mind, 12 minutes into that league final in Portlaoise, Kildare looked like they were going to win. And then the bubble burst for the rest of their campaign, and it culminated in that defeat that they took at Hawkfield on Saturday night, where Down came through 127 to 313. So Down stay in both Division 2A and also in the McDonagh for next year. And I saw Ron Sheehan, their manager, was saying that represented actually a good season for Down to stay up in both. And look, if you have to go away from home against a team who have been going well in Clare and you got to get a result, I think that was a very good final day for Down to be able to stay up. Laois put in a big performance away from home against Kerry, won 4-23 to Kerry's 21 points, but in vain because of the fact that Carlow had won to qualify for the final. That was interesting as well. Former Laois captain and manager Niall Rigney had tweeted around this idea of whether the competition is being disrespected and the integrity of the competition and so on. He was looking at the quotes from Willie Maher after the game, and he said, "We could have done the same if Laois had beaten Offaly, which we didn't. We could have done the same if Laois had beaten Carlow, which we didn't. So blaming another team or county for not qualifying, you have to look at your own poor performances." I think that's a very fair point. I mean, Laois put themselves in a position where they dropped points in 2 games. Their own position was out of their own hands going into the final round, and you can't exactly expect that the team is going to go all out with nothing to play for in order to give you a chance of qualifying for the final. Skell, I don't want to step away from the fact that we had the Leinster Minor Hurling final, and I genuinely want to congratulate you. It wasn't just a bit of fun in the intro. Maybe the Leinster County should have kept Galway away for a bit longer, because here you are now in year 1 as the Leinster Minor champions. But my congratulations on a team that's flying. Evan Nyland, who you've spoken about a whole lot of times, top scorer again in Portlaoise on Friday night, beating Kilkenny to win the Leinster Minor championship. You must be really happy with how they're going.
Yeah, Aaron Nyland.
Aaron Nyland. Sorry. The joke was in my head before I said it from the listener who put it in, and that made me double check myself. Yeah, Aaron Nyland with 11 points. Sorry.
Yeah, I only heard that. No, look, delighted to win it. And the best thing for us was we got the games. We got to run the games, which is great. It's so great to get. And the thing you can see when you get continuous games is continuous improvement. So for us, I won't say the year has been achieved, but it's a box ticked. We got to run the games, got to see what we have in terms of youth, and we have a good group. So as the Taoiseach said one time, we have a lot done, but more to do.
Well, I was joking with you. I was saying, would you be around? Because it's Sunday night that we're recording this right now. The podcast will probably come out on Monday morning. But I said to you, geez, maybe there might be a bit of celebration about the minors or whatever. You were like, no, the minors were straight back to recovery session the next day. Yeah,
I think it's which is important, because I think when you've got a Friday game, which what we had obviously, and it was a 7:30 throw-in. You're in Portlaoise, you're an hour and a bit away, you've got to feed the lads. Like every lad was home probably at 12:30, 1 o'clock. So it's important to get some recovery into the bodies, especially when you've got a quick turnaround. We're out, this Saturday again at 3 o'clock in Thurles against Cork. So they've had 3 days extra recovery than us. So we're it is a short turnaround. It's hard for kids because, that's what they are. They're kids. So they've had a high intense game on the Friday. They're delighted with themselves to say back to it again this week, mix that with school, and then you've got a big game coming Saturday. So it's important to, I suppose, recover the body, but recover the mind too, and just get together, get into a bit of water and have a bit of fun, and just press the reset button and go again.
Yeah, really busy week or so coming up as well with the amount of games that are on. I'll give you a run through them in a second. But Murph, before we do, what was your army promotion? Because I think it was Shane Courtney who tweeted me and said he had a promotion. He didn't even tell you about it. So what's your rank in the army now?
I'm not scared. No.
General Murphy.
No. I'm captain now, Will. Captain.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, I have to ask, right? Because I haven't a clue. So what's next? So where do you start? Do you start at private? Or what do you call it?
Well, there's 2 streams you can start from. So I started, this is going to confuse you now. It's like your draft. So you can start on 2 sides. You can go in the cadets, or you can go in as a recruit. And I went in as a recruit, and I was a private, and I was a corporal, and then I became what's called a potential officer. You transfer across and become a commissioned officer. So then I was a lieutenant for the last few years, now captain. So there's 2 different streams. I was on the stream side, which the sergeant major and all this side, but now I'm on the other side now, which is lieutenants, captains, and commandants. So there's loads of different ranks, but there's basically 2 streams in which you're in. So
aside from a pay bump, what's captain actually mean?
What do you mean? What does it mean?
As in, what's different? So you wake up as a captain compared to what you were the day before. What's different now?
Well, no, the job I was doing. So as a lieutenant, going into my last year as lieutenant, I went into a job which was a captain's job. So I'd be promoted into it and continue on my job. So I didn't change where I'm working. I was in that job as it was. So I wasn't suddenly shipped off anywhere Monday morning or anything like that. So thankfully enough.
So what's the I have to ask, so you get beyond captain, what's the next level? What's the keep going, give me the layers all the way to the top.
So commandant is next, commandant, and then you have lieutenant colonel, and then you have colonel, and you have brigadier general, major general, and then lieutenant general.
So you've 6 steps to go.
Well, to go, not everybody makes. No, it's like you don't. Everybody doesn't serve it. Then
we're all in this together, okay? Right, we're on Team Rugby. So what's the average? So when we're doing the Hurling Pod in, let me guess, 20 years' time, you'll be General Murphy.
Jesus, I tell you, there's lots of things have to happen for that scale, and there's lots of army lads listening to that because there's a lot of things that have to happen.
Oh, but they'll happen.
You'll make it happen, will you?
As Pat Short said, I have the stuff to do it. I'll go out and do it.
Well, they have. I tell you, actually, sure, Stephen Maloney. So at the moment, he's competent. So you could get an Andrew Shotensey. So ex Limerick hurler as well.
Yeah.
So two of them would be competent. Let's say like Dermot Hurley, like a lot of people would know, obviously enough. Senior Dermot Hurley, he finished up Lieutenant General, so he was head of the whole army. So like he would be a fair kind of he would be held in obviously enormous esteem, both from the GA side and the Defence Forces side.
Yeah.
Let's say his son would be a lieutenant colonel. So there's loads of different. In terms of, you can nearly reference lads through GA terms here now as well. I think Kevin McStay was a competent as well. So there's loads of different lads you could point through the years there to explain the ranks.
We're right behind you. Congratulations on the promotion. And yeah, Skehill said 20 years time. No pressure. You can be in the Dermot Early senior position by then. Busy week with the games that are on. We'll have lots to talk about next week. So Monday night, Under 20 Hurling Championship final in Munster is Cork and Clare at the Gaelic Grounds, 7:30. That's on TG Car. Wednesday night, we've got the Leinster Under 20 final. These are effectively All-Ireland semi-finals as well, as the two provincial winners go through to the All-Ireland final on the 27th. That's in Netwatch Cullen Park, 7:30 on TG Car. I think Offaly are going to have Adam Screeney back for that final. I believe he travelled with the Offaly seniors to Carlow to do a bit of poking around when they won on Saturday. Meanwhile, in the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship, round 4, Saturday, 6 o'clock, Kilkenny against Dublin. I think, Murph, this is a game Dublin have to go and have a right cut at, because we talked about it last week that Dublin have put themselves into a strong position to qualify after the win against Wexford. But the work is not entirely done, given that Wexford will expect to pick up 2 points against Westmeath on the Sunday, and Dublin won't want to leave it to chance for Kilkenny-Wexford in the last round.
No, absolutely not. And again, Kilkenny, if my maths are right in this, Kilkenny beat Dublin. That's Kilkenny in a Leinster final. I'm pretty sure that's the case. And so Kilkenny will have a bullseye on this, going like, this is a serious step for us now. And then you don't know, like after that, Kilkenny going to Wexford Park, Kilkenny will want to win that, absolutely. But you can be sure if Kilkenny have any injury doubts, Kilkenny don't throw the kitchen sink at Wexford in that scenario. So you can see the last day potentially playing out not in Dublin's favour if if they leave it down to fate, it mightn't work out for them. So potentially you could get a good match there and a good battle. But after seeing the league match, Kilkenny and Dublin, there was nothing there that you kind of looked at and went, Dublin could turn over Kilkenny come championship. I just don't see that at the moment. I think the more serious it gets, the more Kilkenny will up the ante. And I just still think that Dublin are still building at the moment, really and truly, and they don't have enough danger around the forward line to really, I think, see how they're going to manufacture, I suppose, an unexpected win here. So, but look, absolutely, it's a great chance for them. And, there's measurables they can come away from this game and say, look at, and now, having said that, a few years ago, was it against Galway in Leinster semi-final in Croke Park? They turned over Galway in an unexpected time. So Dublin are capable of these things as well. But I just don't see it happening at the moment.
You had to get that dig in, didn't you?
It has just slipped out, actually.
It wasn't even a dig. It wasn't even a dig. It was a belt for trouble.
Hey, that was a good few years ago. Jesus.
4.
Yeah, that's a good few.
In 4 years' time, you'll be... No, what is it? You're captain now.
Competent.
Jeez.
Okay, I forgot already. I don't think it's general. I've only eyes in the prize, Murph. Eyes in the prize. General Murphy.
Dublin have had a poor record recently against Kilkenny, Skehill. Do you give them any chance in Nolan Park on Saturday?
It's difficult. Of course, every team has a chance to say it. But if you to approach this with absolute logic and see where Dublin are going to hurt Kilkenny, they don't have an awful lot of avenues, to be honest. Let's say Kilkenny gets someone on Doran Burke. Let's say they pull a rabbit out of a hat and somehow Hugh Lawler ends up with him. Just theoretically, right? Where the Dublin score is going to come from, that's going to overtake Kilkenny scores. I can see Adrian Mullen, Owen Cody, TJ Reid, Billy Ryan, Mossy Keown after his form last day, hitting Dublin with a heap of scores. There's only so much the likes of Owen Donlan can do. So, like, when you go to matchups and it's just a question of numbers, how does Dublin nullify Kilkenny? And I just don't think they can. Simple that. I think Kilkenny can nullify Dublin. Now, I think it'll be competitive. I think it'll be energetic from Dublin. I don't think they'll fear going to Nolan Park, to be honest. I think because that's the way I think Micheál and Noel will build the attitude into Dublin. But it's just very hard for me to see Dublin coming away with 2 points. All I can see is Kilkenny winning by 6 or 7. Do you know? And I don't think that recent results, let's say Clare beating Limerick, Waterford up to Limerick, etc. I don't see that as being an example of how Dublin can come down to Kilkenny. I just think there's too much contrast or too much of a gap in gulf and in quality between the two teams at the moment.
The two games Sunday afternoon really should go the way of the home team. So you've got Go against Antrim and Salt Hill at 2 o'clock and Wexford against Westmeath, Wexford Park at 3. Wexford did drop a point against Westmeath away from home last year when it was a draw, but I think Wexford would win strong favourites this time round. For Westmeath, it's all about the Antrim game at the end, and they'll be hoping that Antrim don't pick up anything against Galway to keep it alive going into that last weekend of the month. And then, as we mentioned earlier, the Munster Senior Hurling Championship round 4 on Sunday. Clare against Cork, Cusack Park and Ennis at 2 p.m. And then you've got Tipp against Limerick at Semple Stadium from 4. So fantastic weekends. Hurling is ahead of us, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure as always. I'm delighted, Skehill, that now you can move on in your life. The draft will no longer be there.
Yeah, but what's next? What's next? Because before the draft, we had the next best 15, which took enough of my life. Then we got the draft, which took a solid bunt.
I've actually thought of something, but I don't know if I want to name it yet because it could cause consternation for you.
Go on, spoiler. Throw it out there. Give them a week to think about
it.
Mark,
in army terms, you've pulled the pin in the grenade and then fucking throw it down.
Jesus, pebble dash with army terms here now tonight. Transfer market, if you have a value on players, what would their value be worth? Because then you're taking into consideration like the longevity. So, for example, TJ Reid against an Adrian Mullen. Well, you'll get more years out of Adrian Mullen at this time. So putting a value on a player now is a big one. And then the likes, because then you bring in the likes of, let's say, Paddy Burke of Antrim, who's really good cornerback. So, and you could get him for a great value there from Antrim, for example. So it's a different dynamic instead of just the draft. Do you know what I mean?
I can feel the wheels turning. And
he's already dollar signs in the head.
Jordan, I've already introduced wages.
There's clauses and everything now.
Contract terms. So Keane Lynch is being signed to a 5-year. What's Mahomes on? No, sorry, Mahomes is on a 10-year, $500 million contract. That's what Lynch is on at the minute. So he's playing in Belfast for 10 years.
Right. Hopefully Caisson Park is built by the time Keane Lynch is there to open it up in a little while. Lads, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a million.
Down, lads.
God bless.
OTB's The Hurling Pod.
With Bord Gosh Energy.
Hurling. It's anyone's game.